Chapter 251. The front hoof of a horse kicked her in the head with a loud crack, and the expression of terror on her face was forever frozen in time. Her skull was broken, and her brain was split open as she fell to the ground. Following that, the hooves of several horses stepped over her body, and she was instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. Lan Xiang. Seeing this terrifying scene, Chun Bai-yun's eyes rolled back, and she instantly fainted. Chu Xiaoyang's chin tightened as his cold eyes swept over Lan Xiang's corpse. He tightly held Chun Bai-yun and continued to wildly charge forward. Those several horses did not stop as they charged forward like crazy, chasing behind his horses, but it was like they had a deep grudge against Chun Bai-yun in his arms. Although Chu Xiaoyang's Jade Flower horse was more spirited than these horses, it was still carrying two people. Adding in the fact that the several dozen horses were charging forward like they didn't care about their lives, they quickly closed the distance. The horses were getting closer and closer to Chu Xiaoyang and Chun Bai-yun. If Chu Xiaoyang did not let go of Chun Bai-yun, it was very likely that he would also be turned into meat paste by these crazy horses. Damn! Bastards! Bastards! Have you all gone crazy? Father is your master, master. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned livid with anger as he angrily scolded the horses behind him. These horses were all famous colts that he had carefully selected from all over the world. He was a horse lover, and every horse that he bought would be carefully raised by someone. He would even come to the stud farm every day to spend some time with these beloved horses, and then he would gallop them to the groom. He knew that good horses recognized their masters the most, so when these horses saw him, they would raise their heads and happily greet him. But today, none of the horses seemed to recognize him. The horses snorted heavily through their noses. Their eyes were as wide as copper bells, and they charged forward with all their might. Chu Xiaoyang's stomach was about to explode with anger. He did not know why these horses had gone crazy, but he knew that if he did not let go of Chun Bai-yun, even he would not be able to escape. Damn! Bastards! You're all animals. Chu Xiaoyang continued to curse. He gritted his teeth, and with a flick of his wrist, he took out the spirit snake's sword from his waist. The sword glowed under the sunlight, releasing a dazzling white light. The only thing he could do now was to cut his wrist. Chu Xiaoyang held the spirit snake's sword as he stared at the horses chasing after him. He gritted his teeth, but he could not do it no matter what. He suddenly gave a long roar as he grabbed Chun Bai-yun and threw her onto a nearby elm tree. He used just the right amount of strength, and Chun Bai-yun safely landed on two branches, still unconscious. The horses immediately changed their direction and charged straight towards the big elm tree. They raised their front hooves and stomped heavily on the thick tree trunk. At the same time, they raised their heads and neighed. Although the trunk of the elm tree was thick, the hooves of the horses were even harder. With several dozen hooves, there were several cha sounds as the trunk of the elm tree that needed two people to wrap their arms around it began to crack. But Chu Xiaoyang used this moment to catch his breath. He jumped off the Jade Flower horse and landed on the back of a wild horse under the elm tree. With a paw sound, he slapped the horse's ear and the horse fell to the ground. Its legs twitched as it fell unconscious. Chapter 252. In the blink of an eye, several dozen wild horses had been knocked unconscious by Chu Xiaoyang's palm, and they all fell to the ground. The horse grooms were all panting as they ran over. Seeing the unconscious horses on the ground, their mouths were wide open, not knowing what to do. Chu Xiaoyang's face was as white as paper. He felt the air in his chest churn, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His several palms seemed weak, but it had already consumed most of his internal energy. His internal injuries had not healed yet, and adding in the fact that he had used too much strength, it could be said that he had suffered even more injuries. He gritted his teeth and swallowed down the sweet taste in his throat. With a tap of his foot, he jumped up and picked up Chun Bai-yun from the elm tree. Chun Bai-yun had just woken up and had just escaped death. Thinking of Lan Xiang's tragic death, her body began to tremble. She fell into Chu Xiaoyang's arms and trembled. She was so scared that she could not even cry. "I beg your highness for mercy." "Your Highness, please forgive us." The horse grooms all kneeled down on the ground. Their faces were all pale, as if a great disaster was about to befall them. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes turned red as he stared at the horse grooms. The hand holding the spirit snake sword began to tremble, wishing he could chop off their heads one by one. This king wanted you to raise horses, and you raise them like this for this king? What's the use of dogs like you for? He raised the spirit snake's sword in his hand with killing intent. "We're wronged, Your Highness. The servants don't know anything." The horse grooms all cried out in unison, and their cries shook the heavens. "Your Highness, please calm your anger. If you kill these horse grooms, wouldn't the truth of this matter be buried, and we would never be able to find the culprit?" Chen Ning rode her horse forward and jumped off the date red horse. She looked at the horse grooms with a faint gaze. "I beg the princess consort to save us." When the horse grooms heard her words, it was like they had grasped onto a life-saving straw. They all began to kowtow to her. Chen Ning revealed a smile and said, "What use is there in begging me? I am just an unfavored princess. His Highness will just treat my words as fart. You should be begging His Highness' precious baby. Isn't that right, little Sister Bai Yin?" I. Chen Bai Yun's lips trembled, but she couldn't say a single word. She was still in a state of shock. The tragic scene of Lan Xiang's death was still flashing in front of her eyes. Just a little bit more, and the person who was trampled into meat paste by the horse was her. She forcefully grabbed Chu Xiaoyang's clothes and said in a trembling voice, "Kill. Kill them all. All of them. To avenge Lan Xiang." The coachmen's faces turned ashen, and they collapsed to the ground. Chu Xiaoyang tightly hugged Chen Baiyun. His eyes were like an angry lion as he looked over the horse grooms. Everyone who was swept by his gaze felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. "Guards!" His cold voice was forced out from between his teeth. His follower, Shaoanzi, appeared out of nowhere and bowed. "Your servant is here. Pass down my orders, chop off the heads of these dog slaves, then turn them into minced meat and feed them to the dogs." He gnashed his teeth. "Your Highness, spare me, spare me." The coachmen cried and kowtowed, their foreheads bleeding. Chu Xiaoyang acted like he didn't hear anything as his eyes flashed with a cold and cruel glow. Shaoanzi was prepared to send down the order to summon the guards, but Chun Ning suddenly took a step forward and blocked his path. Chapter 253. Chu Xiaoyang's cold eyes fell onto her face, and he coldly said, "What do you want to do?" Seeing the calm expression on Chun Ning's face, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind. Could this accident be related to her? But what method did she use to make those horses suddenly go crazy? She didn't have that kind of skill. "Your Highness, did you forget what I said yesterday?" Chun Ning lazily curled her lips and spoke as if nothing had happened. "What words?" Chu Xiaoyang snapped. Chun Ning blinked. "So your Highness is this forgetful? You've already forgotten what you heard yesterday. It seems like what your Highness needs to drink isn't Angelica Deertail soup, but rather a brain-nourishing pill. This king doesn't have time to listen to your nonsense. Shaoanzi, why aren't you going?" Chu Xiaoyang gave another sharp shout. "Your Highness truly has a big temper. Since you don't want to find the killer that wants to hurt little sister, then I won't worry about it. Little sister has been frightened, so your Highness should quickly find a doctor to take a look at her. Don't let little sister keep talking about killing people. It's just too scary. Little sister still has a child in her stomach. Don't you want to accumulate some good fortune for your unborn child?" Chun Ning curled her lips and looked at Chen Baiyun with a taunting gaze. Chen Baiyun's body trembled, and she couldn't help covering her stomach. She buried her head deep into Chu Xiaoyang's chest and said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, Yin is very scared." Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with a scarlet killing intent as he suddenly grabbed Chen Ning's right wrist. He snapped, "Speak clearly for this king. Are my words not clear enough?" Chun Ning gave a Z sound and looked at Chu Xiaoyang with a smile. "Does your Highness always like to move your hands when you speak? Hold in my hand like this. Aren't you afraid little sister Bai Yun will be jealous?" "You." Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his veins popped out. It was like he had been bitten by a snake as he let go. Ning was not in a rush. She took out a snow-white handkerchief from her chest and wiped the hand that Chu Xiaoyang had just grabbed. Her actions almost made Chu Xiaoyang explode with anger. Ning, he said word for word. His eyes were as cold as a knife. Let's talk properly. There's no need to hold hands. Doesn't your highness want to find little sister's killer? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it yet? Chu Xiaoyang's eyes followed the white handkerchief that was being blown by the wind. His temples were throbbing in pain, and his ears were ringing, so he did not hear what Ning was saying at all. He came back to his senses and asked, Chun said. Chun, ? Ning pursed her lips into a smile. She pointed at the dozen or so unconscious horses on the ground and said, It's right here. These horses are the culprits. Didn't Wang Yi personally say that if I let my horse hit someone, then I would be the one to harm Mimi? Then if those horses hit Mimi, how could they escape the crime of murder? Chun, these horses would not go crazy and charge at Yin'er for no reason. Ning, tell me, did you do it? Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with killing intent as he viciously stared at Ning. Chapter 254. Shen Baiyun couldn't help trembling as her face turned as white as paper. Tears began to fall as she pitifully grabbed onto Chu Xiaoyang's clothes. Your Highness, Lan Xiang, she died so miserably. Your Highness, you have to take revenge for Lan Xiang. She choked with sobs as she closed her eyes. That delicate and weak appearance made Chu Xiaoyang's heart clench as he felt an indescribable pain. He did not care about the death of a little girl. In his eyes, it was just like an ant dying. What made his heart ache was Chun Baiyun's tears. Seeing her tears, his mind was filled with the image of her from 8 years ago. At that time, her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in water and tears. He could only remember her eyes filled with tears. Yin'er, you can be assured, I will definitely take revenge for you, he firmly said. That's right, Your Highness, you have to take revenge for little sister. How about you kill all these sinful horses that want to hurt little sister? Ning put away the smile on her face and pointed at the horses on the ground with righteous indignation. You, Chu Xiaoyang's eyes popped out. If he was willing to kill these horses, he would not have wasted a large amount of his internal energy to knock them out. In his eyes, these horses were much more important than the horse grooms kneeling on the ground. It was clearly the horse grooms who did not look after them properly, causing this king's beloved horses to go crazy, causing this disaster. What does it have to do with the horses? It's all the fault of these servants. This king wants to cut off their heads, and you're stopping me. Could it be that you ordered them to do this? Chu Xiaoyang was very aggressive as he directly questioned Ning. Ning took a step back and used her hand to fan her nose. Your Highness' tone is quite big. Did you not brush your teeth this morning? Don't drink deer tail soup next time. Have little sister make you some clear soup to drink. You say that I ordered them to do this, but does your Highness have any proof? Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth in anger. He argued back. You say that you didn't do it, but what proof do you have? It was clearly the horses that made a mistake, but your Highness wants to push it onto a person. AI, speaking of this, the main culprit of this matter is not anyone else. It is your Highness' beloved little sister Yun. Ning looked at Chun Baiyun, her eyes staring right at her. You're speaking nonsense. Ning's face fell as she screamed. Good little sister, what are you so excited for? Elder sister's meaning is that little sister Yun is truly too beautiful and enchanting. Not only have you captivated His Highness, even His Highness horses have been captivated by you. Yesterday's blue and white porcelain was like this, and today's dozen horses are also like this. Speaking of this, it can't be blamed on these horses. They must have treated little sister as a mare, fighting to be the first to find little sister. I've been rude. Your Highness, do you understand what I mean? Although Ning did not say the word mating, anyone with ears could understand what she meant. The coachmen knelt on the ground with their heads bowed. Although they were terrified, they almost laughed when they heard this. Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his face turned livid. He wished he could block Chen Ning's mouth. He knew that if Chen Ning kept talking, he didn't know what else she would say. Chen Ning, this king disdains hitting women, but there are some women that want to be hit. This king will not show any mercy. He slowly clenched his fists. Chapter 255. Zay, Your Highness is truly considerate towards little sister Yun, but this princess is not someone you can do whatever you want. Chen Ning's smile suddenly disappeared, and her cold eyes made Chu Xiaoyang's heart skip a beat. If you want to find out the truth, it's very simple. You just need to take off little sister Yun's clothes and find a horse to smell it. That horse will go crazy, just like the blue and white porcelain. She said word for word. Chu Xiaoyang knit his brows and said, "What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? I don't know what kind of fragrance little sister Yun is wearing, but even horses are enchanted by it. Your Highness has been with little sister Yun every day, so you should be used to this fragrance, but your horses can't resist it. So, don't blame the horse grooms for not watching over them, and don't blame the horses for going crazy for no reason. If you want to blame something, blame it on little sister Yun for being too fragrant. Otherwise, why wouldn't these horses normally go crazy, but when younger sister Yun appears in the horse farm, all these fine horses go crazy?" Chen Ning's words were very reasonable. It seemed ridiculous, but thinking about it carefully, it was all very reasonable. She did not directly point at Chen Baiyun and say that this was all a trap, but rather she pointed at the fragrance on her body. Even if Chen Baiyun wanted to defend herself, she would not be able to do so. Chu Xiaoyang couldn't help being stunned. The more he thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. He slowly nodded. Chen Baiyun's face turned red and green as she bit her lips. She looked down, covering the hatred in her eyes, towards Chen Ning. She began to sob in grievance. "Your Highness, Yun doesn't know anything. Elder sister, Yun really doesn't know anything." Chen Ning curled her lips into a smile. "Good little sister, what are you crying for? Elder sister didn't say you did it on purpose." Chu Xiaoyang gently put Chen Baiyun down. His eyes turned cold as he said, "Yun, take off your clothes." For this kind of matter, how could he believe Chen Ning's words? He had to see it with his own eyes. Chen Baiyun's eyes filled with grievance as she said in a pitiful voice, "Your Highness, you don't believe Yun either? When did this king say he didn't believe you? This king just wanted to see it with his own eyes." Chu Xiaoyang said with a frown. Chen Baiyun was helpless as she slowly took off her clothes. She knew that although Chu Xiaoyang doted on her, he couldn't tolerate anyone going against his heart. He liked her gentle personality the most, so no matter how unwilling she was, she had to pretend to be gentle. "Xiao and Zi, bring a horse from the palace." "No, bring 5 horses," Chu Xiaoyang ordered. Xiao and Zi said. Xiao and Zi. The King Dingyuan Palace did not only have a place to raise horses, there were also stables for the guard horses. Not long after, Xiao and Zi came galloping over on a horse, followed closely by 5 guards on horseback. They did not wait for Xiao and Chu before Xiao and Chu. Xiao and Chu. Xiao and Zi Ning. He Chu and Zi Xiao and he Xiao before. "Get on the horses and run." He shouted at the guards. The guards did not understand, so they obediently jumped onto their horses. They did not know where His Highness wanted them to go, so they could only follow the track. Chapter 256. Chen Baiyun's eyes sparkled, and her body slightly trembled, receiving an even more tender hug from Chu Xiaoyang. "Don't be afraid, Yun. With this king here, no one will be able to harm you." He tightly hugged her. This scene fell into Chen Ning's eyes, and she curled her lips. "I'll hide a bit further away. Otherwise, I'll be caught in the crossfire," she said to herself as she mounted the date red horse, staying far away from Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Baiyun. Chen Baiyun secretly gritted her teeth. She could not understand why all the horses in the stable had gone crazy, but only Chen Ning's date red horse was fine. In this way, not only did all of her plans go up in smoke, even her trusted servant girl suffered a violent death. When she thought of Lan Xiang, tears couldn't help falling down. This time it wasn't fake at all. Suddenly, she felt the muscles on Chu Xiaoyang's arm tighten. She immediately looked up and nervously looked in the direction he was looking at. She saw the 5 horses on the track lose control as they madly ran in her direction. The 5 guards desperately tried to stop them, but the horses' mouths were covered in blood, but the 5 horses seemed like they had lost their minds. Their feet did not touch the ground as they ran towards Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing the 5 horses coming closer, Chun Baiyun's face became even paler and her trembling became even more intense. A sharp glow appeared in Chu Xiaoyang's eyes. He suddenly raised his right hand, and Chun Baiyun's outer clothes flew high into the trees. The 5 horses immediately changed directions and ran to the bottom of the tree. They raised their front hooves and wildly kicked at the tree, just like the previous scene. The faces of the guards on the horses turned pale. They fell off their horses and began to kowtow to Chu Xiaoyang's feet. This subordinate deserves to die. This subordinate is useless. This subordinate's horse suddenly lost control and ran into your highness. I ask your highness for forgiveness. A few of them banged their heads on the ground. Chu Xiaoyang's face was so dark that it seemed like water was about to roll down, but he remained silent without saying a word. Chun Baiyun's face turned pale, and she almost couldn't stand. If it wasn't for Chu Xiaoyang tightly holding onto her, she would have already turned into a pile of mud. Your Highness, now that the truth has been revealed, the real culprit is the incense on little sister Yun's body. These horse grooms, horses, and that blue and white porcelain are all innocent. Only little sister's maid Lan Xiang was pitiful. Ai, she really died a pitiful death. Chun Ning slowly rode her horse forward and gave a faint sigh. Hearing this, Chun Baiyun almost fainted for vomiting. Your Highness, you really doesn't know anything, really doesn't know anything. Lan Xiang. Lan Xiang has served Yin'er for so many years. How could Yin'er kill her? Yin'er is innocent. She choked with sobs and couldn't continue speaking. Her tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace, and she fainted in grief. Yin'er. Chu Xiaoyang wanted to ruthlessly teach Chun Baiyun a lesson, but he never thought that she would faint. He reached out his hand, and she fell into his embrace. His eyes sparkled as he stared at Chun Baiyun. He saw that her white as paper face was covered in sparkling tears, looking delicate and powerless. Thinking of the child in her stomach, he was filled with anger and hate, love and pity. His mood was very complex. Are you all dead? Can't you see that the concubine consort has fainted? Why aren't you calling the doctor over? Chu Xiaoyang sent out a kick and kicked a guard in front of him. He had a stomach full of anger that he could not vent, and he felt like he was about to explode. Chapter 257. Although he knew that it was Chun Baiyun's fault, Chu Xiaoyang was not willing to lower his head. He held Chun Baiyun and ran towards the intoxicated flower pavilion with large steps. He did not even look at Chun Ning and the horse grooms kneeling on the ground. He did not even leave a single word behind. Xiao and Zi and the guards were like they had been pardoned. They quickly ran off to find the doctor. The horse grooms were all kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. They were all trembling, and their faces were ashen, looking like they had lost their parents. Humph, daring to do it, but not daring to admit it. Treating your words like farts. What kind of bullshit highness are you? Chun Ning looked at Chu Xiaoyang's back that did not even look back and curled her lips in disdain. She looked down at the horse grooms and calmly raised her eyebrows. What are you all kneeling for? Get up and take these horses to the stable and tie them up properly. If there's a next time, this princess will not be able to save you. This servant thanks the princess consort for saving our lives. The horse grooms did not stand up, and they all kowtowed to Chun Ning. They all knew in their hearts that their lives were saved by the princess. If it wasn't for the princess finding out the truth, they would have all died a wrongful death today. While they were grateful to Chun Ning, everyone was filled with hatred towards Chun Baiyun. This evil woman, she actually used this kind of method to frame the princess. She almost harmed all of their lives as well. Her heart was truly evil. Forget it. This princess doesn't have any gratitude towards you. As long as you don't trick me in the future, this princess will be grateful. Chun Ning revealed a smile as she looked over at one of the horse grooms. Then she left on her date Red Horse with a smile on her face. That horse groom was the one that had received 100 silver coins from Chen Baiyun. He was so ashamed that he could not raise his head, and his back was covered in a cold sweat. Chen Ning came out of the horse track. She did not directly return to the flowing cloud pavilion. Rather, she rode her date Red Horse out of the king's palace and wandered along the streets. You're letting Chen Baiyun off this easily? Why didn't you expose her true face? A voice suddenly came from behind her. She did not need to turn around to know that it was Mo Chuan. Her brows curved as she said with a smile, "You saw everything?" Mo Chuan appeared and took the reins from her hands, leading the horse for her. Chen Ning was stunned for a second before revealing a faint smile. She let him lead her forward, not asking where they were going. Even if I expose her true colors, what can I do? No matter what she does, in Chu Xiao Yang's heart, she will always be a pure white lotus. Even if she is wrong, he will forgive her. If she kills someone, he will say that that person deserves to die. Her voice was soft and gentle, and her tone was neither happy nor angry, as if she was telling a story about someone else. Mo Chuan was silent. It was like he understood the sadness and helplessness in her words, but looking at her expression, he couldn't find any sadness at all. "What I said yesterday is forever valid," he suddenly said. Chen Ning immediately understood what he meant. He wanted to kill Chen Baiyun for her. She slowly shook her head. If it wasn't for the fact that she was pregnant with Chu Xiao Yang's child, she wouldn't have lived until now. Chen Baiyun deserved to die, but what about the child in her stomach? If it wasn't for the fact that she was pregnant, how could she let Chen Baiyun live to this day? Chapter 258. Although she escaped death today, I believe that she must have been scared out of her wits. She won't cause any trouble in this period of time. Xiaohei, you really did a great job. Chen Ning narrowed her eyes at Mo Chuan and revealed a mischievous smile. She thought of the large group of horses charging out of the stable and charging at Chen Baiyun. She was so scared that she almost peed her pants. She felt it was very funny and very satisfying. She was just giving them a taste of their own medicine. This matter looked very scary, but it wasn't hard to do at all. She just had Mo Chuan steal Chen Baiyun's clothes and give them to the horses to smell. Then she cut the ropes, tying the horses until there were only a few strands left. Like this, when Chen Baiyun appeared on the horse track again, her clothes with the suddenly smiling flower juice on it would become the target of the horses. The horses would go crazy and charge at her, without a care for anything else. There was only a small accident. Chen Ning never thought that Lan Xiang would lose her life because she never thought that Chu Xiao Yang would just watch her die. But thinking about it carefully, this was in line with his cold personality. Other than Chen Baiyun, anyone else's life was like an ant in his eyes. Humph! Mo Chuan gave a snort and coldly looked away. Chen Ning rubbed her nose and felt very embarrassed. Xiaohei, you could be assured there won't be a next time. Next time, I won't let you steal women's clothes. She stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. Mo Chuan's face turned hot, and he turned around to give her a warning look. This matter, only the heavens and earth you and I know. You can't even tell my follower, Xiao, Si, a single word. He said in a low voice. If this matter was passed to Xiao Si's ears, the consequences would be unimaginable. Xiaohei, how about I treat you to a drink? The two of them were walking in a small alley. They saw a wine curtain hanging from the corner of the alley, and the fragrance of wine filled the air. All right, Mo Chuan replied without any hesitation. Chen Ning dismounted and gently patted the date, Red Horse's head. The horse obediently stood to the side and ate grass. The two of them pushed open the door and found that the store was not big. The tables and chairs were all clean, but there was not a single customer in the store. The boss was dozing off in the corner. Seeing that there were customers, he lazily got up to greet them. What would the two guests like to order? This store only sells wine and nothing else. Chen Ning couldn't help giggling as she said, Boss, your words are quite interesting. Then I'll buy 10 jeans of wine first. All right. The boss was a straightforward person. He placed the 2 jugs of wine on the table for the two of them, and then placed 2 bowls of wine on the table. He reached out his hand to Mo Chuan. Customers, this is a total of 2 silver coins. Pay first before you drink. There is no credit. Mo Chuan took out a 10 silver ingot and threw it at him. No need. Mo Chuan was surprised. The boss was overjoyed. He put the silver into his pocket and continued to lie behind the counter, dreaming of Zhou Gong. When the wine was poured out, it was a red and Chen Ning liked. Chen was above it. After the wine was poured out, it was actually a bright red. Chen Ning liked it with a single glance. It really is the fragrance of wine that is afraid of the deep alley. This store has this kind of good wine, but no one has come to taste it. We really are lucky accidentally coming here and tasting this kind of good wine. She picked up the wine bowl and tasted it. It was rich and fragrant. Compared to this wine, the Tai Floor's Pear Blossom white wine was much inferior. The fragrance of wine is afraid of the deep alley? Well said. Mo Chuan looked at her with a surprised expression. Then he picked up the wine bowl and drank it in one gulp, looking very heroic. It really is good wine. He poured another bowl for himself as his eyes sparkled. Chapter 259. Xiaohei, are we friends now? Mo Chuan was a little stunned. He actually thought about it and then slowly nodded. He spat out a single word, yes. He had never had any friends, always coming and going alone, drinking by himself. If he didn't consider her a friend, he would never sit down and drink with her. Then, will you kill this friend of yours for a small matter? Chen Ning asked. I won't. Mo Chuan answered very directly this time, not even thinking about it. Then, if this friend of mine asks you for a small request, you won't reject it, right? Her eyes were filled with a smile. Of course I won't. He blurted it out. Thinking about it, he added, if it's a request like last night, then there's no way. He drank another bowl of wine. He felt like his brain must have gone crazy yesterday, actually agreeing to steal a woman's clothes. Being impulsive really was the devil. Thinking about it now, his face turned red. Definitely not, definitely not. I've said it before, there will never be a next time. If you want to steal a woman's clothes again, I'll personally take care of it. Chen Ning smiled as she waved her hand. You still dare bring it up? Mo Chuan glared at her. I don't dare, I don't dare. Chen Ning's eyes turned, and she continued to stare at his face. She revealed a smile. Since we're friends now, and you won't kill me, can you take off your mask and let me see your face? Her eyes were filled with curiosity. Chen Ning's eyes were filled with curiosity. Why? Mo Chuan did not move, and his voice was calm as he drank another bowl of wine. Because we're friends. Since we're friends, we should be honest with each other, but I haven't even seen your true face. So how can we be considered friends? Don't you think so? Chen Ning giggled as she picked up the wine bowl and took a small sip. Although this wine was good to drink, with the experience from last time, she did not dare drink it all in one gulp like Mo Chuan. Even though she only drank 2 mouthfuls, her cheeks were already red and her eyes were filled with drunkenness. All right, Mo Chuan thought about it for a bit and suddenly said. Chen Ning was stunned. She shook her head and said, What did you say? She never thought that he would agree this easily. If you want to see it, I'll let you see it. But after you see it, you can't describe my appearance to anyone. Can you do that? Mo Chuan's deep eyes fell onto her face, meeting her gaze. Is it because your face under the mask is very ugly? Chen Ning giggled as she stared at his black as ink eyes. She shook her head and said, No, no. Your eyes are so pretty, so you definitely can't be ugly. That's right. That's right. Mo Chuan's face slightly heated, and he calmly said, Do you like this? I only say the truth. If you think I'm praising you, you? Using the empty bowl to touch the wine jug in front of Mo Chuan, she whispered with a smile, Excuse me, another bowl. Mo Chuan felt like he was floating, like he was drunk. He looked at her in a daze and unknowingly fell into a daze. Only when the wine bowl touched the jar with a zhung sound did he wake up from his dream. He came back to his senses and poured another full bowl for her. I hope you're not drunk, he whispered, so low that only he could hear him. What did you say? She did not hear it clearly. Chapter 260. The little wine shop was dim, but her eyes suddenly lit up. It was like the sun piercing through the clouds, dazzling her eyes. Chen Ning stared at his face and felt dizzy. She couldn't help rubbing her eyes. In front of her was a handsome face. His eyes were cold and aloof, with a distant and indifferent expression. Looking at him, it seemed like he was a bit familiar. Strange, this face of yours. Where have I seen it before? Chen Ning rubbed her forehead and felt dizzy, like she was drunk. She could see Mo Chuan's vague face, like it was floating in the water. Oh, you've seen me before? Mo Chuan's brows slightly jumped up. His brows were very beautiful, thick and slender. She leaned closer and looked at him carefully, from his eyebrows and eyes, to his straight, jade-like nose, to his slightly purse-thin lips. She looked very carefully. Mo Chuan never showed his emotions, so he was a bit embarrassed being stared at by her. He just habitually pursed his lips and calmly continued to drink, revealing an indifferent expression. I've never seen you before. Chen Ning suddenly let out a long sigh. The two of them were very close, and he could smell the faint fragrance of wine. There was also a faint, sweet fragrance that made people feel intoxicated. But you're really good looking. Just looking at you, it's very pleasing to the eye. She picked up the wine bowl and took a large gulp. Her eyes blurred as they filled with drunkenness. Mo Chuan's lips curled up, and his eyes revealed a faint smile. Am I better looking, or is Chu Xiao by better looking? He suddenly asked. Of course it's because you're better looking. Chen Ning blurted out. She leaned over the table and giggled. Her voice was clear and sweet, just like a silver bell. Xiao He, you're this good looking, so don't wear that damn human skin mask in the future. I like it when you're like this. He didn't say anything and just looked at her with a faint smile, drinking bowl after bowl. Her words made him feel like he was drinking nectar, as if he was even more intoxicated than the wine in the bowl. Chen Ning also drank. The more she drank, the more she felt like this wine was like plain water, but the more she drank, the more thirsty she became. The more she drank, the more she wanted to drink. The more she drank, the brighter her eyes became and the clearer her laughter became. She wanted to laugh when she drank too much. Whatever Mo Chuan said, it would make her laugh until she couldn't stand up straight on the table. Mo Chuan never knew that his words could make a person this happy. He unknowingly said a lot, and he couldn't even remember what he said. He could only remember her pair of eyes that were shimmering with drunkenness. Her sweet smile exuded a strange and dazzling beauty. Mo Chuan did not notice that she was drunk, because he had already drank too much wine and he had unknowingly become drunk. Pong! Chen Ning suddenly slammed her fist down on the wooden table. She gritted her teeth and cursed. What are you doing? Chen Ning said. Chun in chun chun. This voice was like an earth-shattering sound, instantly dispelling most of Mo Chuan's drunkenness. He opened his drunken eyes and looked at Chen Ning in a daze. Chun, how dare you insult His Majesty? The boss behind the counter was woken up by Chen Ning's scolding, and he drowsily looked up. The boss behind the counter was woken up by Chen Ning's cursing, and he drowsily looked up. Mo Chuan flicked his finger, and a copper coin flew through the air, hitting the boss' sleeping acupuncture point. Mo Chuan looked down at Chen Ning and found that her face was blushing. Her eyes were slightly closed, and her hands were on the table, but she was slipping under the table. Chapter 261. Mo Chuan's hand quickly reached out, and she fell into his arms. Then she found a comfortable position in his arms and closed her eyes, peacefully falling asleep. He couldn't help not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Hey, wake up, wake up! He shook her and called out in her ear. Shh, don't be noisy, let me sleep. Chen Ning knit her brows and impatiently waved her hand. It was like she was shooing away mosquitoes. Mo Chuan was helpless. He could only pick her up and walk out the door. Only then did he find that the sky was already filled with stars. They had actually stayed in this little wine shop for half a day. When the night wind blew, his slightly dizzy head instantly became clear. He touched his slightly hot face that was dyed red from the wine. When he touched his smooth skin, he suddenly realized that he wasn't wearing the human skin mask. So he took it out from his chest and put it on. Thinking about it, it really was ridiculous. After all these years, he had been very strict and had never acted as recklessly as he did today. He had actually taken off his mask in front of a girl he wasn't very familiar with just because of a single sentence from her, allowing her to see his face. Then, they went to an unknown tavern and drank to their heart's content. Unexpectedly, they drank to the point where they were slightly drunk. He seemed to have said a lot of things, but he couldn't remember them all. He only remembered that she kept smiling and smiling. Those eyes that were brighter than the stars in the sky were filled with a smile. The wine didn't intoxicate him, but he was intoxicated. Now it was time for him to wake up. Mo Chuan helped Chen Ning onto the back of the date red horse, but she was too drunk. She couldn't even sit properly on the horse and fell down. She fell into his arms once again. Her cheeks were red and she looked very drunk. The faint starlight shined on her face and her bright red lips were slightly curled up. She looked very innocent as she slept, completely different from the clever girl she was when she was awake. Only because she was too smart and had a heavy guard against others, and Mo Chuan felt that he could not see through her. But now it seemed like no matter how smart she was still a 16, 17-year-old girl. Her skin was as clear as jade and was so tender that water could be pinched out. And Mo Chuan suddenly did something that even he found unbelievable. He actually pinched her cheeks, and that smooth and tender feeling gave him a strange feeling. It was as tender as tofu. He pulled his hand back like he was scalded by something and looked at his right hand with a look of disbelief. Damn, what was he doing? Mo Chuan calmed himself and took a deep breath. He jumped onto the date red horse's back while hugging her. The horse only recognized Chen Ning as its master and didn't allow anyone else to ride it. When it saw Mo Chuan holding its master, it snorted in protest. Mo Chuan's legs squeezed the horse's belly and it obediently moved forward. The horse was swaying back and forth. With the cool night wind blowing, Chen Ning opened her eyes in a daze. You're awake? Mo Chuan's deep voice sounded from above her head. Well, where are we? She found that she was in Mo Chuan's arms, and there were little stars dancing in the blue night sky in front of her. Mo Chuan's face was like a reflection in the water, swaying back and forth, making it hard for her to see clearly. I'll send you home, he replied. Chapter 262. You're drunk. Mo Chuan gave a helpless sigh. If you want to vomit, then vomit. I'm not drunk. Chen Ning forcefully swallowed the tipsy feeling back down. She opened her eyes wide and suddenly sobered up. She sat up in Mo Chuan's embrace and looked forward. She clearly said, You're going the wrong way. This is not the road to the King Ding Yuan Palace. Oh, you're really awake? You recognize the road? Mo Chuan did not recognize the direction and just let the date red horse wander. There were many roads in the capital city, and it was nighttime, so he did not know where the date red horse was pulling the two of them. Of course I recognize you. Hee. Let me tell you a big secret. As long as it's a road that I've walked on once, I'll never forget it again. If I've seen someone once, I'll always remember their appearance. So, after I've seen your face, you can't run away. Chen Ning giggled. She had not completely sobered up and the alcohol was still strong. Her tongue began to grow louder as she spoke. She swayed left and right on the horse's back, almost falling off several times. Mo Chuan could only hold her tightly. Her waist was very thin, like it would break with a gentle pinch. He could hold her with a single hand. The girl's sweet scent came over and his body was suddenly filled with flames. Don't move. He knit his brows and held her shoulder with one hand. He gritted his teeth and kept his distance from her. I'm not moving, I just can't sit still. Io. The date red horse suddenly shook a little and Chen Ning's body swayed, falling forward. Mo Chuan grabbed her waist and pulled her back. Because he used too much strength, their bodies were tightly pressed together. The flames in his body that had just been extinguished began to burn again. Damn! He gritted his teeth and cursed in a low voice, not knowing if he was cursing himself or cursing her. He tried his best to restrain himself as he looked forward. His voice was as cold as ice. Where do we go now? The date red horse was at a three-way road. Chen Ning slightly looked up and said without any hesitation, right? Mo Chuan almost suspected that she was pretending to be drunk. He raised the reins and turned to the right road. In the silent night, The horse's hooves stepped on the blue stone road, making a monotonous and clear sound. Under Chen Ning's guidance, after turning another corner, he saw the back door of the King Ding Yuan palace. She was not drunk. Mo Chuan's heart filled with anger. He did not believe that a drunk person would be able to recognize the road with their eyes closed. This was simply impossible. He reached out to grab her shoulder and turned her to face him. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why did you lie to me?" "Lie to you? When did I lie to you?" Chen Ning's head became more and more heavy as her eyelids drooped down. She was drunk, and she couldn't even think clearly anymore. "You obviously know who I am, but you always pretend not to know. You're obviously not drunk, but you're pretending to be drunk. How much longer do you want to deceive me?" Mo Chuan's voice was very cold. Each word was like ice falling to the ground. His eyes were even colder, filled with a bone-chilling intent. Anyone who was stared at by him like that would tremble all over. But Chen Ning was drunk. She was not afraid of him at all. Instead, she giggled and reached out to grab the mask on his face. Chapter 263. Mo Chuan grabbed her hand and tightly knit his brows. Looking at her appearance, it seemed like she was really drunk. Big bad wolf? Little white rabbit? I don't think you're a little white rabbit, but rather an incomparably sly little fox. He gently curled his lips, and his lips revealed a trace of gentleness that even he did not notice. It was completely different from his usual coldness. "Damn old emperor, I'll beat you to death." Chen Ning suddenly opened her drunken eyes and threw a punch at Mo Chuan's face. With Mo Chuan's skills, how could he let her hit him? But he did not know why, but he was stunned. He did not dodge, and the punch landed right on his nose. It was a good thing Chen Ning was drunk and her hands were weak. His nose only felt a bit sore, but it didn't hurt much. "You really are bold." He suddenly grabbed her hands, not allowing her to move. His body released killing intent once again. "Xiaohei, why is it you?" Chen Ning shook her head, and the blurry figure in front of her became clear. She said with a smile, "I thought it was that bad emperor. If I saw him, I would have killed him with a single punch." Mo Chuan's face couldn't help turning dark. He said in a low voice, "The emperor? How did he offend you?" "It's him who offended me. He's greatly offended me. He is a muddled emperor. He has nothing better to do than meddle in other people's business, messing around. Tell me, is he an old muddled person?" "Old and muddled." "Old muddled?" The emperor, is he very old?" Mo Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chen Ning's brain turned into paste as she muttered, "The emperors in the movies are all white-bearded old men, with toothless old eunuchs by his side. Woo, perhaps this emperor is not too old, but he is definitely a muddled person. Otherwise, why would he marry me to that bastard Chu Xiaoyang?" White-bearded old man. Mo Chuan couldn't help rubbing his smooth chin. Thinking of Xiao Si, he almost laughed. Toothless old eunuchs? He supported Chen Ning's swaying body and said while shaking his head, "You really are drunk. Marrying you to King Ding Yuan was not the emperor's idea, but rather your own idea. It was your father, Great General Chen, who personally went to the palace to ask for an imperial edict, saying that you would not marry anyone other than King Ding Yuan. The emperor sympathized with Great General Chen for fighting for the country for many years, so he allowed it. Now that King Ding Yuan has taken your sister as his concubine, you don't blame Chu Xiaoyang, but rather the emperor? He's not a good person at all. He's not a good person either. He's also surnamed Chu. Those surnamed Chu are all snakes and rats. Not a single one of them is good." Chen Ning spoke in a slurred voice. Mo Chuan's face sunk. "Do you know that insulting the royal family is a capital offense?" Chen Ning's head tilted, and she fell into his embrace. She mumbled a few words before falling asleep without knowing what happened. Mo Chuan. He was trying to reason with a drunken woman. "Forget it. I'll send you back first." He sighed and jumped off the horse with her in his arms. His figure flickered, and he arrived on the roof. He knew that he couldn't let anyone see her like this, otherwise her reputation would be ruined. It just so happened that she was wearing a light green robe. In the night, it looked like a blooming green epiphyllum, especially eye-catching. Mo Chuan took off his outer robe and covered her body with it. Borrowing the cover of the night, he silently entered the king's palace. He avoided the guards of the king's palace and carried Ning to the flowing cloud pavilion. Opening her door, he entered in a flash. The room was completely silent. There was no candlelight and no sound at all. However, he suddenly felt a murderous aura coming from behind him. Chapter 264. Chuan did not have time to think. His feet touched the ground, and he flew forward like an eagle. This move was very fast. Although he was holding a person in his arms, he was still as fast as lightning. He turned the air, and when he landed, he was already facing the assassin. That person was wearing a snow-white robe and had a picturesque appearance, but he was filled with anger. He pointed at Chuan and scolded, "Black ghost, so it's you. Where did you take her?" Chuan's eyes turned cold, and he gave a snort. "Pervert, why are you here again? Don't you remember what I said? I said that as long as you appear here again, I'll hit you every time I see you." Chu Xiaobai's brows rose. When he was about to explode, his eyes suddenly fell onto Ning, and his expression instantly changed. What did you do to her?" She. His voice trembled, and he almost couldn't say it. He saw that Ning was covered in a black man's robe. Her face was red, and her eyes were closed. There was a faint fragrance of wine coming from her. It was clear that she was drunk. A large fear filled his heart as he stared at Chuan with eyes that seemed like they were about to burst into flames. "Black ghost, you're not a human. You're taking advantage of me." He was like an angry lion as he charged at Chuan, wishing he could kill the man that had taken advantage of her in front of him. His handsome and refined face contorted in anger, and the bones of his arms crackled. It was obvious that he had used all of his strength. His palm was filled with anger, and Chuan knew how strong it was. If he wasn't holding a person, it would have been easy to deal with this palm. But he was holding Ning. In a split second, he suddenly jumped off the ground and flew into the sky like a white crane. His posture was incomparably beautiful. Although he was holding a person, he was still very nimble. He jumped over Chu Xiaobai's head and landed behind him. Chu Xiaobai's eyes lit up. "Who are you? Why do you know my Chu family's Qigong? Where did you secretly learn this move, Cold Pond, Crane Shadow, from?" Chu Xiaobai's face turned cold as he suddenly turned around. His eyes stared right at Chuan, but he did not continue to attack, because he was afraid of accidentally injuring her. Secretly learn? Why would I secretly learn it? This isn't considered a great secret art. So why do you think only your Chu family knows it? There was no expression on Chuan's face, but his voice was filled with indifference. Chu Xiaobai was so angry that his hands began to tremble. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right, put her down and we'll go out to fight." His heart was already filled with killing intent. This black-clothed man dared to do this to her, so he would not forgive him. This black-clothed man dared to do this kind of thing to her. "Are you a servant of King Jing An's palace?" Chuan didn't say anything, but once he did, Chu Xiaobai couldn't say anything. Chuan coldly looked at Chu Xiaobai. "King Jing An, you don't need to be this excited or be this angry. She was drunk and fell asleep. I just sent her back. Only you, King Jing An, would take advantage of someone when they're down. I disdain doing such a thing." Chu Xiaobai took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He looked at Chuan with doubt, half believing his words. "Who are you? Why are you always by her side, and you still say you have no evil intentions?" He gave a cold laugh. "You don't care who I am, and I don't need to explain it to you. I just want to remind you, don't forget your own identity. This is not a place for your highness, King Jing An. If you don't leave, then don't blame me for being impolite." Chapter 265. How could Chu Xiaobai be willing to leave, especially after seeing Ning unconscious for being drunk? How could he be assured leaving her in the hands of this strange black-clothed man? "All right, I want to see how you'll be impolite to me." "Hey, when have you ever been polite to this king?" Chu Xiaobai reacted and spat at Chuan. He couldn't help rubbing his cheek. It was still aching from Chuan's slap last time. He had never been hit since he was young. Other than this reckless black, clothed brat in front of him, there was no one that dared to hit him. So you're saying, you want to be beaten again? Mo Chuan gave a cold laugh, and his voice was filled with anger. His chin was still a bit swollen. This stinky brat, he was actually this heavy-handed. Let's fight. Put her down. I'll fight with you outside. Don't wake her up here. Chu Xiaobai lowered his brows and said in a deep voice. When he saw Mo Chuan hugging her, his heart filled with anger. Especially her red, drunk cheeks. It was like a beautiful, blooming begonia. But this flower was being hugged by this man. Even if I hugged her and fought with you, you still wouldn't be my match. Mo Chuan looked at Chen Ning, who was sleeping like a kitten in his arms, and suddenly didn't want to let go. Chu Xiaobai's face turned green. He took a step forward and grabbed her arm, pulling her into his embrace. At the same time, he stared at Mo Chuan and said word for word, "Let go of her for me." Mo Chuan raised his chin and hugged her even tighter. He coldly said, "I won't let go. Let go. Won't let go. Let go. Won't let go." The two of them stared at each other with wide eyes, looking at each other. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. "Kacha!" A clear sound rang out, followed by Chun Ning's painful cry. "Ayo, it hurts. My arm." She felt a sharp pain in her right arm that made her tear up. All of her drunken drowsiness flew away. When she opened her eyes, she immediately saw two people in front of her. One was black and the other was white. She found that she was in Mo Chuan's embrace, and her right arm was in Chu Xiaobai's hand. The two of them were pulling at her like a tug of war, and her arm was actually dislocated. Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai were both stunned. The two of them were like two fighting roosters, pulling each other. They had unknowingly used too much strength, but they had forgotten that the one being used was not the other, but rather Chen Ning's unlucky arm. The two of them were both ashamed and ashamed. They lowered their heads like students who had made a mistake, not daring to look at her. Hey, do you two think what is going on? Both of you let go." Chen Ning grimaced in pain. Especially when she saw their guilty expressions, she was filled with anger and almost cursed them out loud. Chen Ning gritted her teeth in pain. She shouted in an imposing manner. Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai's hearts skipped a beat, and they let go at the same time. "Ning! Chen Ning's, but fell to the ground. She was so angry that she almost roared out. "Do the two of you have a grudge against me, or something? Yun Shun of the Bai Chun of Chun the Xiao Ling Yin Ning. One of you hurt my butt, and the other broke my arm. How can you bully me like this?" She held her dislocated right arm, and the pain made her suck in air through her teeth. "Sorry," Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai said at the same time. "I didn't do it on purpose." The two of them said at the same time. "I didn't do it on purpose." The two of them said at the same time. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes. Chapter 266. She felt that she was really unlucky. She didn't offend anyone. She just fell asleep from being drunk. When she woke up, she found that her arm had been dislocated by someone. These two damn fellows. She stared at the two of them, and her eyebrows turned green. "Ning, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. I'll help you reconnect your bones, and you won't feel any pain soon." Chu Xiaobai took a step forward and kneeled down in front of her, gently holding her right arm. "You know how to reconnect bones? Let her go and let me do it." Mo Chuan also took a step forward, and his hand grabbed Chu Xiaobai's wrist. Moreover, the way he grabbed it was not gentle at all. Chu Xiaobai's brows jumped up, and he couldn't help taking a deep breath. He quickly turned around and glared at Mo Chuan. His eyes were filled with flames as he angrily said, "Scram, you don't have the qualifications to touch her." "I don't have the qualifications?" "The one who doesn't have the qualifications is you. Your Highness King Jing, and don't forget who she is to you." Mo Chuan gave a cold laugh. Chu Xiaobai angrily said, "I don't need you to remind me. Shut up. What qualifications do you have to order me? Who do you think you are?" Mo Chuan increased the strength in his hand. Chu Xiaobai grimaced in pain and scolded, "Stop pretending in front of me. Where did this bastard come from? This is a matter between me and Ning Er. It has nothing to do with you. Your matter is my matter. I want to care about it." Chu Xiaobai gave an angry laugh. "All right, If you want to care about my matter, then you have to ask if my fist agrees. Mo Chuan looked at him. Your Highness King Jing'an, do you want to teach me a few moves? That's right. I just want to smash your face. Chu Xiaobai angrily shouted. Hey, try it if you have the skills. Mo Chuan raised his brows in an uncaring manner. With a needle against an on, the smell of gunpowder filled the air between the two of them. Chen Ning looked at one and the other. Seeing one with a fierce expression and the other with a smile, she couldn't help giving a Z sound. I say, little white and little black, it's a good thing that the two of you want to compete in martial arts and promote the path of martial arts. But before you verify your martial arts, can you first reattach my arm? Allow me. Chu Xiaobai and Ma Bai spoke at the same time. As soon as their voices fell, their gazes met in the air. Sparks flew from their eyes as they drew their swords. Bang! Chen Ning did not even have time to speak before she heard a muffled sound. It was unknown who hit who first. What followed was the sound of punches and kicks hitting each other. The two figures quickly began to fight. Their clothes fluttered in the wind as they moved around the room, making Chen Ning's eyes blur. Bam, bam, bam. Pa, pa, pa. The two of them took a few punches and kicks from each other. Glaring at each other, they quickly started fighting again. This scene was so familiar, it was exactly the same as that night. Chen Ning was stunned seeing this. She could not understand why the two of them had turned into children, fighting over a single disagreement. The furniture in her room was once again destroyed. It hadn't even been a day since she changed it, but it had all been turned into pieces. But Chen Ning did not care. Since these expensive furniture and decorations were all bought with that bastard Chu Xiao Yang's money, even if they were all destroyed, she would not feel any pain. Chapter 267. Other than her arm, her head was also beginning to hurt. If these two people fought in her room every night, she would not be able to sleep well in the future. Suddenly, another pung sound rang out, scaring Chen Ning. She thought that one of the two people had been injured again. Xiao Ru's disheveled head popped in from the door. She sleepily asked, "Young miss, is there thunder in your room again?" She looked at the two figures in front of her and thought that she was dreaming. She stood there rubbing her eyes as her mouth formed a circle. Oh, God, what is going on? What is going on? Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai were fighting intensely, neither of them paying attention to her. Xiaoru rubbed her eyes for a while before finally seeing the two people in the room. "Young miss, quickly come and see. An immortal and immortal are fighting," she excitedly shouted. Chen Ning's lips curled up. She really wanted to slap the back of Xiaoru's head. "Xiaoru, quickly come and help me up." She endured the pain as she shouted. She was too lazy to care about these two fellows fighting. If they wanted to fight, then they could fight. Even if they destroyed the entire room, it would still be Chu Xiao Yang's money. Xiaoru finally noticed Chen Ning sitting on the floor. She quickly ran over and grabbed Chen Ning's arm. "Young miss, what's wrong?" Pain. Don't move no matter what. My arm is broken." Chen Ning broke out in a cold sweat from the pain. Xiaoru was shocked, and tears began to pour out. She sobbed and said, "Young miss, did that bastard Highness hit you? He actually broke your arm. He's really bad. He has a sore on his head and a bad heart." The two people who were fighting all stopped at the same time. They both remembered that Chen Ning was still injured. "Ning, I'll help you fix your bones. Let me." Two people appeared beside Chen Ning at the same time, one on the left and one on the right, holding her arms. "Let go of her! Let go of her!" The two of them shouted at the same time as they stared at each other. Seeing that another fight was about to begin, Chen Ning suddenly had an idea. She loudly shouted, "Io, it hurts so much." Sure enough, it attracted the attention of the two of them. Mo Chuan did not say a word as he grabbed her right arm and pushed it. Hearing a ka sound, Chen Ning didn't even have time to cry out in pain before her dislocated arm was successfully fixed. "You!" Chu Xiaobai fiercely glared at Mo Chuan. Although he hated him for being a step ahead, he also admired the other side's clean methods. Chen Ning rubbed her arm and looked at Mo Chuan and then at Chu Xiaobai. Since you two like to fight so much, then go ahead and fight to your heart's content. Now both of you get out. She scolded with a stern face. Both of them were filled with remorse and guilt towards her. They wanted to apologize, but because of the other party's presence, they couldn't open their mouths. Xiaoru blinked her eyes as she stared at Chu Xiaobai. She suddenly clapped her hands and said, I recognize you. You're the immortal young master that descended to the mortal world that night. Chu Xiaobai did not even have time to speak before Chun Ning angrily shouted, Xiaoru, shut up. You're not allowed to talk to these two crazy people in the future. You're not allowed to talk to these two lunatics anymore. Chu Xiaobai and Mo Chuan looked at each other. Although they didn't know what these words meant, they knew that it wouldn't be anything good. Crazy people? Chu Xiaobai and Mo Chuan looked at each other. Although they didn't know what these words meant, they knew that it wouldn't be anything good. Chapter 268. Go out and fight. Chu Xiaobai raised his brows. Let's go. Mo Chuan was even happier. Two figures flew out the window. Their movements were as light and fast as a breeze, causing Xiaoru to give a surprised cry. Aya, the immortal young master, flew away again. Chun Ning silently rolled her eyes at Xiaoru. Then she rubbed her sore, but as she climbed up from the ground, she said to Xiaoru, Go get a bowl of chilly water. What? Xiaoru didn't hear clearly and stared at Chun Ning with wide eyes. Chilly water. The spicier the better. If those two bastards dare come back, I'll treat them to a good drink, Chun Ning said through gritted teeth. Although Xiaoru didn't understand her meaning, she still obediently brought over a large bowl of chilly water. It was bright red, and it was filled with chopped red peppers. Chun Ning was very satisfied seeing this. She patted Xiaoru's shoulder and praised. Good job. Good Xiaoru, go back to sleep. Xiaoru blinked and pointed out the window as she said, Young miss, the white-clothed immortal young master is fighting with bodyguard He in the yard outside. Let them fight. Even if they break a hole in the sky, it has nothing to do with us. Let's go to sleep. Chun Ning climbed into the bed and covered her head with the blanket. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Who would have thought that Xiaoru would charge in after she slept for a while, loudly shouting, Young miss, this is bad. Bodyguard He kicked away the parrot cage, and all the parrots in the cage flew away. Chun Ning did not move and did not even lift her eyelids. Tell housekeeper Su tomorrow and have him send 10 more parrots over. After a while, Young miss, this is bad. The immortal crane in the yard was slapped to death by the white-clothed immortal young master. Xiaoru charged into the room in a panic. What? Chun Ning was about to sit up, but when she heard that it was the immortal crane that died, she laid back down without any expression. Write it down and have housekeeper Su send 5 more over tomorrow. After a while, young miss, the immortal young master and bodyguard He fell into the pond together. They're all dead. Xiaoru charged in while gasping for breath. They're all dead? Chun Ning jumped up from the bed and her eyes popped out. She grabbed Xiaoru and said, Tell me clearly, how did you die? Ku. Xiaoru was choked to the point where she couldn't breathe. They fell into the pond and were still fighting. As they fought, the fish in the pond flipped over one by one and floated to the surface. They were all dead. Who? Chun Ning let out a long sigh. She angrily slapped the back of Xiaoru's head. You little girl, your words aren't clear. It's just a few dead fish. Write it down and have housekeeper Su buy them again tomorrow. Xiaoru. Xiaoru, obediently go to sleep. No matter who dies outside, you're not allowed to come in and wake me up. Otherwise, I'll catch you. Chun Ning glared at Xiaoru and made a threatening gesture. Chun Ning slept all the way until the sun rose. She stretched lazily and turned over. As soon as she opened her eyes, she was startled. A handsome face suddenly appeared in front of her. That pair of beautiful black eyes were filled with color. Seeing that she was awake, he suddenly revealed a gentle smile that was like a pear blossoming. Chapter 269. Chun Ning was still feeling sleepy. She rubbed her eyes and said, Why are you here? You and Xiao Hei's fight is over and you're not going to fight anymore? I'm not fighting anymore. Chu Xiaobai nodded and said, Ninger, does your arm still hurt? It was all my fault last night, accidentally injuring you. You won't be angry with me, right? His voice was very careful, and his eyes were filled with guilt. Because of a moment of impulse, he had caused her to be injured. Thinking about it, he wanted to punch himself a few times. But his body had suffered quite a bit from Mo Chuan's fists. There were several places that were green and purple, making him grit his teeth in pain when he touched them. Of course, he would not tell her a single word about this. In front of her, he still had that spring-like smile on his face. I'm not angry. Chen Ning's eyes turned. Chu Xiaobai's heart filled with joy, but he heard her tone change. As if his brows immediately drooped down, and he said in a dejected voice, Ninger, I know I was wrong. I also killed a crane in your yard. He. Chun Ning curled her lips into a smile as she looked at him. You also killed all the carps in my pond. That's not just my fault. There's also that brat He. Chu Xiaobai said in an unconvinced voice, but he quickly looked down under Chun Ning's gaze. He said in a slow voice, I'll compensate you. Chun Ning shook her head with a smile. She asked in a curious voice, when you fought last night, who won? Chu Xiaobai's handsome face turned slightly red. After holding it in for a while, he finally said no. There was no winner. When it was almost dawn, that brat He suddenly jumped out of the pond. He said he had something to do and would fight another day. Then he left. Left? Chen Ning's eyes sparkled, feeling it was a little strange. Mo Chuan's whereabouts were always mysterious, coming and going without a trace. He would disappear from time to time, but when she needed him, he would suddenly appear. But thinking of his identity as an assassin, she understood. He will come back after leaving. She gave a gentle smile. She had not done what she promised him, so he would definitely come back. Chu Xiaobai's face changed, and he angrily said, Tell me, who is that brat He? Why did you go out drinking with him? Why did you let him carry you back in the middle of the night? Chen Ning smiled at him and teased. Little White, your nose seems to be crooked. Is it because Little Black hit you? Or because you're angry? Chu Xiaobai's face turned red. Nonsense! When did my nose become crooked? Even so, he could not help but glance at the bronze mirror on the table beside him. Ha, I'm just teasing you. Chen Ning bent over the bed as she laughed. She couldn't help pinching Chu Xiaobai's cheek and saying with a smile, Xiaobai, you're really cute. It was easy for Chu Xiaobai to dodge, but he did not move at all. He let her pinch him as he stared at her in embarrassment and anger. You still haven't told me who he is, Little Black? Chen Ning forcefully pinched his smooth face twice. Seeing that there were red fingerprints left on his white as jade face, she withdrew her hand in satisfaction. She smiled and said, He is my personal bodyguard. You fought with him before. What do you think of his martial arts? Chapter 270. He couldn't help rubbing his chest. He had suffered a kick from Mo Chuan yesterday. Although he wasn't injured, his chest was still very uncomfortable. Then can you beat him? Chen Ning blinked and asked a question she already knew the answer to. Although Chu Xiaobai said it was a draw, she could tell from Chu Xiaobai's expression that he had suffered quite a bit from Mo Chuan. Of course. Chu Xiaobai straightened his neck and said, Next time I'll beat him to the point of begging for mercy, letting him know how strong I am. All right, then I'll be waiting for that day. Chen Ning said with a smile. Hey, why do you need a bodyguard for no reason? Are you afraid my third brother will bully you? How about you tell that brat He to scram, and I'll be your bodyguard? Chu Xiaobai suddenly thought of something and blurted it out. Chen Ning couldn't help laughing. You are the respected King Jing, and how could I dare make you my bodyguard? She shook her head with a smile. Chu Xiaobai gave a sigh. He knew that this was an impossible matter. Not to mention his third brother Chu Xiaoyang not agreeing. If his uncle the emperor found out, he would be the first to not forgive him. But when he thought of that brat He following behind her all day, he felt uncomfortable all over. Xiaobai, I want to punish you. Chun Ning suddenly said with a serious face. You dislocated my arm, and I can't use any strength. How do you think I should punish you? Chu Xiaobai's heart skipped a beat as he nervously looked at her. Whatever you want me to do, I would do as you wish, he replied without any hesitation. But in his heart he said, it's best if you punish me by your side forever. All right, this is what you said. In a few days, the eldest princess will be holding a large hunt, and she has invited me and your third brother to participate. Your third brother have made a bet to see who can catch the most game that day. Before Ning finished, Chu Xiaobai had already cried out in shock. What? You really made this bet with my third brother? How could you make this bet with my third brother? Do you know how good my third brother's hunting and riding skills are? His archery is like a god, and he always takes the lead every spring and autumn hunt. You could have bet with him, but why did you have to bet hunting? You will lose without a doubt. As he spoke, he shook his head repeatedly and asked, what's your bet? If it's not important, then you should just give it to me. When Ning heard this, she couldn't help feeling discouraged. She said in a depressed voice, to Chu Xiaoyang, it really isn't anything important. I like a horse in his stable, and if I win, he will give me that horse. If I lose... She bit her lips as Chu Xiaoyang's eyes filled with hatred and that cold expression appeared in front of her. What happens if I lose? Chu Xiaobai nervously asked. To want hers, allelt her, he teet, he she him te her. Xiao tes he teet mo. He she. He chin her. You want her to admit defeat and kowtow to a scumbag like him? No way. My third brother has gone too far. Chu Xiaobai's handsome face sunk, and he forcefully stomped his feet. He looked at her with a disappointed look. For a horse, you're willing to sacrifice your entire life? If you like horses, I'll give you 10 of them. If you like horses, I can give you 10 of them. If you really like my third brother's horse, as long as you tell me, even if I have to steal or rob it, I can still get it from third brother to give it to you. You just had to go and make some stupid bet with him. Chapter 271. Speaking of this, it's all your fault. I had confidence in winning, but you dislocated my arm, making it so that I couldn't use my strength to shoot. You said that I could punish you however I wanted, so I'll punish you. Help me win this hunt. No matter what method you use, I have to win. Ning's eyes turned, and she decided to blame it on Chu Xiaobai. Although her words were forceful, Chu Xiaobai was stunned and could not refute her. He naturally hoped that she could win the bet, but this was the big hunt, and the eldest princess was personally in charge, so cheating was not allowed. If she wanted to win in front of everyone, it would be as hard as ascending to the heavens. But if she lost, she would be imprisoned in the king's palace for the rest of her life, becoming his third brother Chu Xiaoyang's slave. Thinking of this, his heart felt like it was being twisted. No, she could not lose. But what kind of method should she think of to ensure her victory was within her grasp? Chu Xiaobai raised his head and looked at the ceiling, silently thinking. Cuckoo, Xiaobai, you fought with Xiao He all night yesterday, so you should be thirsty, right? I've specially prepared a soup for you to quench your thirst. Do you want to try it? Ning's eyes fell onto the large bowl of chilly water, and she revealed a malicious smile. Chu Xiaobai was filled with excitement as he said, yes, of course I want it. But when he followed Ning's gaze, his brows instantly came down, and he said with a crying face, you wouldn't want me to drink this, right? What this and that thing? You killed my immortal crane and koi. I don't want you to pay me back. As long as you drink this soup, I'll forgive you. Otherwise, don't ever appear in front of me again. Ning said with a serious face. All right, I'll drink it. Chu Xiaobai made up his mind. Wasn't it just a bowl of chili soup? Compared to not seeing her again, it wasn't even worth mentioning. He picked up the basin and gulped down a big mouthful. His handsome and fair face instantly flushed red from the spiciness, and tears came out. Hey, Xiaobai, you're really drinking it. Ning was shocked. She grabbed the bowl of soup from his hand and found that he had already drunk half the bowl. Seeing his red face from the spiciness, she couldn't help feeling angry and finding it funny. I'm just scaring you. Do you really think so? Quickly drink some water. Ning quickly poured a large cup of water, and Chu Xiaobai drank it in one gulp. His eyes were as clear as a deer's, but he stared at her without blinking. He said seriously, don't even mention chili water. Even if it's arsenic water, as long as you let me drink it, I will gladly endure it." His voice was hoarse, no longer as clear as it was in the past. However, his tone was serious and sincere, not changing in the slightest. "Shall Bai." Chuning's throat felt like it was blocked by something. Her heart was filled with sweetness and sourness as an indescribable feeling filled her chest. She stared blankly into his eyes, not avoiding the overflowing affection in his eyes. At this moment, many scenes of him flashed in her mind. He carefully held the snow lotus in his hands and brought it to her. He held her in his arms and flew over the high roofs. They sat side by side on the top floor of the royal palace at night. They had a heart-to-heart talk. He left many vivid and cute little animals on her face. Each scene was beautiful and warm. It was the first warmth and happiness she had felt since coming to this world. It was all given to her by him. If she could live happily like this for the rest of her life, it would not be a bad thing. Chapter 272. Her pretty face was slightly raised. Her clear and watery eyes were filled with gentle ripples, and there was a hint of a smile. Chu Xiaobai's heart began to beat fast, and he was so nervous that he stopped breathing. She was so close to him, and a few strands of her hair brushed past his face, giving off a faint fragrance. He suddenly gathered his courage and opened his arms to hug her. When he felt that she didn't resist pushing him away, his heart almost jumped out his chest. He was panicking, and his heart was beating fast. He felt her soft body leaning against his chest. This was the first time he was hugging his beloved girl, and he was so nervous that he did not know what to do. This was too shameful. If she heard his wild heartbeat, she would know that he had no experience and would laugh at him. Chu Xiaobai's face was hot and his mouth was dry. He was annoyed with his own timidity and naivety. She was clearly in his embrace, but he could not summon the courage to kiss her face. His helplessness and nervousness were all seen by Chunning. The smile on her lips slowly grew, and her eyes filled with a smile. This Xiao Bai was as pure and clean as a piece of white paper, without a speck of dust on him. Moreover, he was very cute. This youth and innocence actually made her heart palpitate with eagerness. Perhaps the crows in the world were not all black. There was a pure and innocent youth like Chu Xiao Bai among the Chu family. Compared to Chu Xiao Bai, his third brother Chu Xiao Yang was simply a fighter among scum. Ninger, I. Chu Xiao Bai forcefully swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva before finally being able to stutter out a few words. His voice was hoarse and his lips were burning, as if he had lost all feeling. He was filled with regret right now. Why did he drink that damn chili soup, making his lips feel like two pieces of wood? Even if he really kissed her face, he would not feel anything at all. What do you want to say? She looked up in his embrace. Those two long eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings, and her eyes were soft and clear. I want to... He stuttered. He was captivated by those two bright eyes of hers, and was speechless for a while. Suddenly, his ears moved. He heard the sound of hurried footsteps coming from outside, as well as the urgent calls of the maids. Princess Consort! Princess Consort! Young Miss, His Highness. His Highness is here. What? Chu Xiaobai and Chen Ning were both shocked. What is he doing here? Chen Ning knit her brows, feeling that something was wrong. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let him harm a single hair on your head. Chu Xiaobai held her shoulder and firmly said, You must leave immediately. You must not let him see you. Chen Ning bit her lips, and her eyes were filled with determination. She placed a finger on Chu Xiaobai's lips and said word for word, I've sworn in front of everyone that as long as I am King Ding Yuan's princess, I will not do anything that will shame my father. So before I completely separate from him, I won't give you any promises. Do you understand? Chu Xiaobai's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. As long as he saw her eyes, he knew that she could not change her mind. Chapter 273. Chu Xiaobai really hoped that he could become a tree that could shelter her from the wind and rain, not letting her be destroyed by the wind and rain. He wanted to protect her in his branches. Chu Xiao wanted to protect her from the wind and rain. I understand. I will wait for you until that day. He took a deep breath and forcefully hugged her. Then he pushed open the back window and jumped out. He left the king's palace without looking back. He ran very far away in one breath before stopping. His heart was very painful, like it was being grabbed by something. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. Amidst the pain, there was also a hint of sweetness in his heart. Although she had firmly told him that she would not give him any promises right now, he knew that this was the best promise she could give him. She had him in her heart. No matter how small a place he occupied in her heart, he had already entered her heart. Chu Xiaobai's lips couldn't help revealing a faint smile, but this smile quickly froze on his face. He knew why his third brother Chu Xiaoyang had come to her courtyard early in the morning. He was looking for trouble with her, but he could only watch from the side, because if he were to appear there, she would be accused of being unchaste and unclean. For a woman, this was a stain that could never be washed clean. She said that she would not let her father be ashamed because of her. So, he could only endure. He could only leave. He could only let her delicate body face his third brother's torrential storm alone. His heart felt like it was being placed in a pan of oil, but he was helpless. Chu Xiaoyang came to the flowing cloud pavilion early in the morning. He did not come with good intentions, and those with good intentions did not come. He didn't come alone. A large group of people followed behind him in a grandiose manner. There were the palace guards, servants, steward Su, and Mother Lin. Everyone had a very serious expression on their faces. Once he stepped into the flowing cloud pavilion, Chu Xiaoyang waved his hand, and all the guards scattered. They guarded the entrances of the flowing cloud pavilion, not allowing anyone to enter or leave. Xiao Ru, Chun Tao, and Xiaohe were currently cleaning up the battlefield from last night. When they saw Chu Xiaoyang suddenly appear with a group of people, they were all shocked. Xiao Ru's first reaction was to run to Chen Ning's room and report to her. But before she could even say a few words, she was grabbed by the collar by a guard and brought back like an eagle catching a chicken. Chu Xiaoyang waved his hand, and Chun Tao, Xiaohe, and Xiao Ru were all kicked out of the flowing cloud pavilion by Chu Xiaoyang's guards. The three of them looked at the angry Chu Xiaoyang, and their hearts jumped into their throats. They broke out in cold sweat for Chen Ning. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes sunk, and his handsome face was so dark that it seemed like it was about to drip water. He walked over to Chen Ning's door and reached out to push it open. At this moment, his emotions were extremely complicated. The veins on the back of his hand were bulging, and he was actually trembling. The doctor said that Chun Baiyun had fainted yesterday, and he had carried her to the intoxicated flower pavilion. He had quickly asked the doctor to make medicine for her. The doctor said that Chun Baiyun had been frightened twice, and she had personally seen Lan Xiang die under the hooves of a horse, so she had been stimulated and needed to rest. It was a good thing that the child in her stomach was fine. Chapter 274. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. I don't know anything. I didn't kill Lan Xiang. Saying this, her face was covered in tears. She kept calling out Lan Xiang's name, and after calling Lan Xiang, she called out Chu Xiaoyang. Your Highness, you have to believe Yin Er. I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. Her face was pale and filled with tears. Her body kept trembling as she curled up in Chu Xiaoyang's embrace like a pitiful child. Chu Xiaoyang hugged her and gently patted her back, comforting her in a soft voice. Yin Er, don't be afraid. No matter what you did, this king will believe you and will always believe you. Lan Xiang is dead, and this king will send a better made to serve you. You can sleep in peace. This king will stay here with you and will not take a single step away from you. Under his comforting voice, Chun Baiyun gradually calmed down. After taking the medicine, she quickly fell into a deep sleep, but one hand was still holding onto his clothes. Her brows were knit together, and her expression was delicate. Chu Xiaoyang just sat beside her like this. He sat there for most of the day, not even moving his butt. He did not say anything and just silently stared at Chun Baiyun's sleeping face. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart. The room was filled with maids and servants, but no one dared to make a sound in case they disturbed His Highness and the concubine consort. When the lights were turned on in the night, Chu Xiaoyang's personal attendant Xiao and Zi quickly came in from outside and reported a few words to Chu Xiaoyang in a low voice. Chu Xiaoyang's expression changed, and he suddenly stood up. He never thought that this sudden movement would wake up the sleeping Chun Baiyun. "Your Highness, where are you going? Don't you want Yin'er anymore?" She opened her eyes. The tears in the corners of her eyes had not dried yet, but new tears came pouring out. Chu Xiaoyang's heart softened. He sat down again and held her hand. In a soft voice, he said, "Yin'er, don't panic. How could this king not want you? Something has happened, and this king needs to take care of it." Chun Baiyun's body trembled. She grabbed his hand and said with a nervous expression, "Your Highness, don't blame elder sister. This matter has nothing to do with elder sister. Yin'er believes that elder sister is innocent. She didn't do it on purpose." Chu Xiaoyang tightly knit his brows and said, "How do you know that this king is going to find that cheap person?" Chun Baiyun shrunk back and timidly said, "His Highness will only be this angry when he thinks of elder sister. Did elder sister do something wrong to make His Highness angry again? That shameless slut. After she left the horse track, she still hasn't come back." Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that he blurted out, "Elder sister, she left the palace?" Chun Baiyun's eyes flashed, and she looked out the window. She said in a worried voice, "Yeah, it's already dark outside. Elder sister is still outside the palace this late. What if there's danger? I wonder if that black-clothed guard has been protecting Big Sister all this time?" Her words were like adding oil to the fire. Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth, and the veins on his forehead popped out. "Chuan's ti he tmo ti chun, ti chuan, ti 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 ti, him ti." He hated Mo Chuan, not because Mo Chuan made him look bad in front of everyone, but because from the moment Mo Chuan saved Chen Ning, his hatred for Mo Chuan had seeped into his bones. Chapter 275. What he hated the most was the scene of Mo Chuan carrying Chen Ning away. He actually dared to touch his woman. Even if he didn't want her, he would not allow another man to touch a single finger of hers. Xiao and Zi, pass on this king's orders. Have the guards guard all the entrances to the palace. As long as that cheap woman comes back, immediately report to this king." Chu Xiaoyang's face was dark as he tried to control his anger. Yes, Xiao and Zi did not need to ask to know who the cheap woman His Highness was talking about was. When he was about to leave, Chu Xiaoyang coldly added another sentence. "No matter what time it is, as long as that cheap woman comes back, immediately report to me." "Yes, Your Highness." After Xiao and Zi left, Chu Xiaoyang called in housekeeper Su and ordered him to send a few smart maids to the intoxicated flower pavilion to serve Chun Baiyun. After settling everything, he returned to Chun Baiyun's side and held her hand. His expression was uncertain as he looked out the door from time to time. How could Chun Baiyun not know what he was thinking? She secretly gritted her teeth and said, "Your Highness does not need to worry about elder sister. With that kind of strong martial arts guard by elder sister's side, elder sister will definitely be safe. This king is worried about that guard." Chu Xiaoyang blurted out, but then he suddenly stopped himself. His face was tight and his eyes were sharp. He unknowingly tightened his grip on Chun Baiyun's hand. But Chun Baiyun did not feel any pain because her heart was in more pain than her hand. She looked down and hid the deep hatred in her eyes. She snuggled into Chu Xiaoyang's embrace and said in an understanding voice, "Your Highness, Yin'er knows that you are worried that elder sister will." She paused and very cleverly stopped. Feeling Chu Xiaoyang's body slightly tremble, she continued to say, "Yin'er believes that elder sister will abide by the rules of a woman and will not do anything that will disgrace Your Highness. However, even if Yin'er believes that elder sister is innocent and Your Highness believes in elder sister, we still need to take out evidence for this matter. Only then will we be able to seal the mouths of the world and give elder sister justice." Evidence? What kind of evidence? How can we prove this matter to others? Chu Xiaoyang's chest was stuffy as he angrily punched the wall. Thinking of how the hat on his head would turn green and how he, the respected King Ding Yuan, will be called a turtle when he went out, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Chen Baiyun's heart ached as she held his hand. Her eyes turned, and she said in a soft voice, "Yin'er wants to ask your highness about something. I hope that your highness can tell Yin'er honestly." Chu Xiaoyang said in a deep voice, "What? After your highness and elder sister got married, did you and elder sister sleep on the same bed?" Chen Baiyin asked, even though she already knew the answer. Then she shyly lowered her head, saying the last 3 words in a small voice. "Bye-bye, Ji. That ugly monster. This king didn't even look at her. So how could I sleep with her? Yin, this king only has you in his heart. Other than you, no other woman would even touch a single finger of his. Could it be that you still doubt this king's feelings for you?" Chu Xiaoyang angrily said. Chapter 276. She did not even finish before Chu Xiaoyang suddenly slapped his thigh and said, "Good! Yin'er, your method couldn't be any better." His eyes were as cold as ice, and his lips curled into a fiendish smile as he said, "If she really does something to let this king down, not only will this king ruin her reputation, I will also make her beg for death." Chen Baiyun revealed a look of fear as she said, "Your Highness, Yin'er believes that elder sister is not that kind of person. For your highness and elder sister's reputation, you have to carefully choose the 2 nannies." "You're right. Yin'er, who do you think is suitable in the palace?" Chen Baiyun hesitated for a bit before saying, "Yin'er has heard of the 4th grade ceremonial Maid Meng and the 4th grade ceremonial Maid Jiang. They are both old and experienced nannies." "All right, then this king will send someone to invite those 2 over tomorrow and have them examine that cheap woman's body." Chu Xiaoyang stroked Chen Baiyun's long hair and gave her a pampering smile. "Yin'er, you really are this king's intimate person. This king is very fortunate to have you as his companion." Chen Baiyun gently hugged his waist and revealed a sweet smile. In a soft voice, she said, "Being able to help your highness is Yin'er's duty. Yin-er hopes that elder sister can prove her innocence and hope that your highness can repair your relationship with elder sister. Yin-er's wish is more than enough. Yin-er, that slut almost killed you today. Not only do you not hate her, you even thought about this matter for her sake. You even hoped that this king would treat her well. There are far too few women who are as kind as you. I hope that slut can understand your painstaking efforts and turn over a new leaf from now on. Turning over a new leaf. But you can be assured, even if she is innocent, this king will not be moved by this kind of snake and scorpion heart at all." Chu Xiaoyang tightly hugged her and firmly said, "Your Highness, elder sister," Chen Baiyun timidly wanted to say something, but she was cut off by Chu Xiaoyang. "You don't need to say anything good for her. How to treat her, this king knows what to do. Good Yin, or listen to this king and obediently go to sleep." Chu Xiaoyang let her lie in his embrace and carefully pulled up the blanket for her, being very considerate. The maid on the side came forward to put down the curtain and blew out the candle. Chen Baiyun closed her eyes in satisfaction. She knew that the more she pushed Chu Xiaoyang to Chen Ning, the further he would be from Chen Ning. On the surface, it looked like she was thinking for Chen Ning and even thinking for her, but Chu Xiaoyang did not know what kind of person the one in charge of the body examination was. With a flip of their hands, it was unknown how many young Miss Er's reputation had been ruined by a few fingers of these body examination maids. Thinking of this, Chen Baiyun revealed a proud smile. "Chen Ning. Chen Ning. After tomorrow's body inspection, I'll definitely ruin your reputation and make you wish you were dead." He felt like there was a heavy lock on his heart, making him feel uncomfortable and angry. That bold, cheap woman, daring to stay out all night and hang out with another man. She clearly did not put her husband in her eyes at all. What a bold slut. She actually dared to stay out at night with another man. She clearly did not put her husband in her eyes at all. Chapter 277. Chu Xiaoyang's hand was placed on the carved red lacquer door. Before he could open it, The door suddenly made a sound and opened from the inside. It's so early in the morning, and there's already a commotion outside, disturbing people's dreams. Where did this wild dog come from? Chun Tao, Xiahi, how do you take care of this courtyard? How can you let any random dog or cat into our courtyard? Chen Ning appeared in front of him with a lazy expression. She had one hand on the door frame, and the other was covering her mouth as she yawned. It was like she had suddenly seen Chu Xiaoyang. Her eyes suddenly opened wide, and she revealed a surprised expression. This princess thought it was a wild dog from the alley next door. I never thought it would be your highness. Your highness coming to the flowing cloud pavilion early in the morning to visit this princess. This is truly flattering. Her face was covered in a thick layer of makeup, and with her exaggerated expression, it made Chu Xiaoyang feel like vomiting. This damned slut. She must have known that it was him long ago. The rouge on her face was clearly freshly applied. It was true that ugly people often cause trouble. She was ugly, so even if her face was covered with rouge and powder, she was still an undeniably ugly person. Chu Xiaoyang did not even look at her as he walked in with large steps. His eyes were filled with darkness. He was already used to her sarcasm, so he was not angry at all. What made him angry was something else. She had actually come back, which was out of his expectations. But thinking about it, he understood. The black-clothed guard beside her was a martial arts expert, and his qigong was not ordinary. He brought her in and out of the palace. Avoiding the guard's eyes and ears was very easy. He could only blame himself for not thinking about it. However, this proved one thing even more. There must be a secret between her and the guard. Otherwise, why would she not dare to openly enter the mansion with the guard? Thinking of this, Chu Xiaoyang became even more angry. His first thought was that this pair of dog and dog must have slept together last night. He angrily charged into Chen Ning's room and ran over to the large bed. With a pull of his hands, he ripped the curtain in half, revealing the empty bed. No one. There was actually no one. But this did not calm Chu Xiaoyang's anger. He suddenly turned around and grabbed Chen Ning's wrist as he shouted, "Where is that man?" Chen Ning gave a Z sound and said, "Man, what man? Why does your highness always come to my flowing cloud pavilion to find men? Could it be that all the men in the palace are dead?" Although Chu Xiaoyang's body was filled with a cold, killing intent, she was not afraid at all. She covered her lips as she giggled. Stop pretending in front of this king. Don't pretend with this king. Don't think that this king doesn't know what you're doing. Cheap woman, this king is warning you. If you dare do anything wrong to this king will chop you up and feed you to the dogs. He gritted his teeth and glared at Chen Ning with eyes that seemed like they were about to spit fire. Chen Ning with a smile. She said with a sigh. Chen Xiao said, "King, what do you mean? Are you trying to slander this princess' innocence?" Although she did not know what Chen Baiyun had said to Chu Xiaoyang last night, she could see that Chu Xiaoyang did not come with good intentions. "Clean? Do you still have your innocence?" Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold laugh and looked around the room. He did not find Mo Chuan, but that did not dispel the suspicion and anger in his heart. Chapter 278. Chu Xiaoyang, stop hurting people. You're the cheap person. You're a cheap person. Chen Ning rarely scolded people, but hearing Chu Xiaoyang call her a cheap person, even if she was made of mud, she would still be a country bumpkin. She immediately scolded back without any hesitation. You dare scold this king?" Chu Xiaoyang was stunned from being scolded. This was the first time someone had called him a cheap person. "That's right. I'm scolding a cheap person like you. A cheap person deserves to be scolded. A cheap person is unreasonable. Chu Xiaoyang, you're a cheap person." Chen Ning's scolding became more and more enjoyable as she scolded him. She regretted not scolding him earlier. Do you believe that this king won't kill you?" Chu Xiaoyang angrily raised his fist. "Cheap person, do it." Chen Ning looked at him with a look of disdain and raised her chin high up. "You think this king doesn't dare?" Chu Xiaoyang's voice came out through gritted teeth as his eyes filled with killing intent. But his fist, which was raised high, did not come down for a long time. He didn't know why, but he clearly hated Chen Ning and was so angry that he wanted to kill her. She was like a pitiful ant that he could easily crush in a powder, but he couldn't do it. Her stubborn eyes and her unyielding personality made him feel a kind of admiration. Even men would kneel down and beg for mercy in front of his cold, killing intent. But her face did not show the slightest bit of fear, and her legs were standing straight. Just based on this point, he wouldn't kill her. He would slowly torture her bit by bit until she crawled at his feet and admitted that he was her master. Then he would send her to her death. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes flashed with a cruel and cold light. He slowly lowered his fist and coldly said, "Very good, Chun Ning, you really have guts. This king won't kill you, but this king won't let you go like this. If you want to punish someone, you can always find a pretext. I wonder what kind of crime your highness wants to give this princess this time." Chen Ning heard that he was no longer calling her a cheap person, so her words became a bit more polite to him. "You keep saying that you're innocent, but do you dare prove it in front of everyone?" "Why wouldn't I dare? But how do you want me to prove it?" Chen Ning gave a cold laugh. "Good. You're the one who said this." Chu Xiaoyang suddenly sent out a palm strike. With a sharp wind, he sent it towards Chun Ning. With a kacha sound, the two windows were shattered by the wind from his palm and flew out. Chun Ning looked out the window and saw a courtyard filled with people. She couldn't help curling her lips. "Your Highness, this truly is a large force." She gave a cold laugh of disdain as she straightened her back. Chu Xiaoyang coldly said, "Mother Meng, Mother Jiang, come in and examine the princess consort's body." Xiaoyang. Two white-haired old maids wearing palace robes came out of the crowd and followed her into the room. They said to Chun Ning, "I asked the princess consort to take off her clothes and let these old ones examine the princess consort's innocence." Chun Ning stared at the two maids and said without any politeness, "Where did you two old beasts come from? What qualifications do you have to make this princess take off her clothes?" Mother Meng and Mother Jiang were trembling with anger, but they had been in the palace for many years. What kind of storms had they not experienced? And what kind of insults had they not heard? Although Chen Ning's words were rude, they did not reveal any anger on their faces. Chapter 279. That Mother Jiang also came forward to greet her. She gave a fake smile and said, "This old one is a fourth-grade steward, in charge of etiquette. People call me Mother Jiang," greeting the princess consort. The two of them immediately reported their ranks in the palace. Their meaning was to tell Chen Ning that although she was a princess, they were all ranked maids in the palace. If she dared to insult them, it would be the same as insulting the emperor. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. Naturally, she understood the meaning behind their words. At the same time, she understood the entire situation. She could tell at a glance that these two eccentric old things were up to no good. It would be a miracle if they were willing to verify her innocence in front of their father-in-law. Even if she used her feet to think, she could tell that Chun Baiyun had set her up again. She wanted to use the words of these two maids to ruin her reputation. So how could she let Chun Baiyun do as she wished? So it's Mother Meng and Mother Jiang from the palace. This princess did not know about it before, so I was rude. I asked the two maids to not take offense. Chen Ning said with a smile. Mother Meng and Mother Jiang said in their hearts, "Now you're admitting your mistake? It's too late." But at the same time, they had a humble and respectful smile on their faces as they said, "These old ones are just servants. How could we dare blame the princess consort? We asked the princess consort to take off her clothes on the bed." "Take off my clothes on the bed? I wonder how the two nannies will help this princess examine it?" Chen Ning asked with a smile. She asked in a very natural manner, but the two maids' faces couldn't help turning red. In front of Chu Xiaoyang, the two of them found it hard to say. "Ku." Mother Meng gave a soft cough and then said in a slightly awkward voice, "We're asking the princess consort to take off her underwear and let these old ones check if the princess consort is still a virgin. So it's like this." Chen Ning looked at Chu Xiaoyang and said with a faint smile, "These two maids want to prove this princess' innocence. Your Highness, do you want to personally verify it?" "No need. Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face suddenly turned red for some reason. He turned around and walked away. Wait, Your Highness. If you don't personally verify this matter and something goes wrong, wouldn't this princess be unable to say anything? Wouldn't I be accused of being unclean? Chen Ning suddenly came forward in front of him. Chu Xiaoyang knit his brows and coldly said, "What do you mean? These two are old nannies that this prince specially invited from the palace. They are experienced and mature. This prince believes in them. You believe them, but this princess doesn't believe them." Chen Ning said as her eyes coldly swept over Mother Ming and Mother Jiang. The two maids looked at each other and immediately cried out in grievance. "Princess consort, this old one has been in the palace for many years, and all the beauties that enter the palace have been tested by us. There has never been a single mistake. So why does the princess consort not trust us?" "Iki, I believe you, but I can't believe your fingers." Chen Ning gave a cold laugh. "Don't think that this princess doesn't know what kind of tricks you're playing. You actually want to use them on this princess today. You should save your breath." Chun mother Chun Chen Ning and Chun Ning, Chen mother Ning and she. Chun mother Chen the two, Chen mother Chun, Jiang Chun, Chu Xiaoyang. You want to prove this princess' innocence? Fine. Chapter 280. You want this king to personally test it. Chu Xiaoyang was stunned, but then he understood Chen Ning's meaning. He couldn't help flying into a rage out of shame as he angrily scolded. "Chen Ning, you really don't know shame. You can actually say this kind of thing. You want to go to bed with this king. You keep on dreaming." His face turned red, and he did not know what to say. Chen Ning suddenly gave a gentle laugh that was filled with disdain. She curled her lips into a smile and looked at Chu Xiaoyang from the corner of her eyes. "When did this princess say, 'I wanted to go to bed with you'? You're dreaming." "You? Then what did you mean just now?" Chu Xiaoyang angrily said with a red face. Could it be that the only way to test a woman's innocence is by going to bed with a man and taking off her clothes? Mother Ming, Mother Jiang, you keep saying that you're old maids of the palace, but have you never heard of the palace guarding cinnabar before? I believe everyone in the palace knows that as long as you put a palace guarding cinnabar on an unmarried woman's arm, unless she marries or becomes a virgin, the palace guarding cinnabar will never fade. Mother Ming, Mother Jiang, you clearly know this is the simplest and most effective method, but you didn't say a single word about it. You just have to make it seem like you're not guilty, right? Chen Ning's lips were like spears, and her tongue was like arrows. Each word made the two maids speechless. They could not refute her and could only stammer, this, what this and that. Stop wasting time. Quickly take out the palace guarding cinnabar. This princess will test it for you to see if this princess is still innocent or not." Chen Ning fiercely shouted. The two maids trembled as they secretly thought that this princess was truly powerful. Mother Ming helplessly took out a small pill bottle from her chest and presented it to Chen Ning with both hands. Chen Ning opened it and saw a vermilion red muddy substance inside. She had only read about the palace guarding cinnabar from books, but she had never seen it before, so she did not know if it was real or fake. "This is the palace guarding cinnabar?" Her cold eyes stared at Mother Ming's face. Mother Ming replied, "It is." She lowered her head, and Chen Ning could not see her expression. She could only see her sleeves slightly trembling, so it was hard to tell if it was real or fake. Whether this palace guarding cinnabar is real or fake is not up to you to decide. This princess wants to test it. Chen Ning thought for a bit before walking out the door. Chu Xiaoyang did not know what she wanted to do, so he followed her out. Chen Ning's eyes swept over the people in the yard before looking back at Chu Xiaoyang. With a faint smile, she said, "Your Highness, do you mind if this princess does an experiment first?" Chu did not understand as he asked Chen what. Chen Ning raised the small pill bottle in her hand and asked, "Do you know what this palace guarding sand is?" "Chun, that's good. Speaking of which, this chastity cinnabar isn't something precious. It's just that geckos are fed cinnabar and other things for 49 days, then mashed into mud and smeared on a woman's arm. If the woman is a virgin, water won't be able to wash it off. Otherwise, if you wash it with water, it will disappear without a trace. Since Wang Ye already knows, we might as well verify it on the spot. How will you verify it? Chu Xiaoyang stared at her and said. Chapter 281. All right. Chu Xiaoyang looked at the crowd and said in a deep voice, Mother Lin, come here. Mother Lin walked out of the crowd with her cane and bowed to Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Ning. This servant greets your highness and princess consort. She was very respectful, completely different from the two maids from the palace. You are this king's wet nurse, and the person this king trusts the most, so you'll be the one to test it. The other one? Chu Xiaoyang's eyes fell on his Xiaoru, and he said with a cold laugh, Chen Ning, how about you call your dowry maid to test it? Do you dare? The so-called master-like servant. Chu Xiaoyang suspected that Chen Ning was not pure, so her maid must have had an affair with someone else. He deliberately called out Xiaoru's name because he wanted Chen Ning to lose face in front of everyone. Chen Ning nodded and waved her hand. All right, Xiaoru, come here. Xiaoru was blocked by the guards outside the yard, so she could hear them clearly. She pushed away the guard's arm and walked forward without any hesitation. Young miss, this servant is willing to try. Very good. Xiaoru, roll up your sleeves. Chen Ning gave Xiaoru a smile of praise. Then she turned to Mother Lin and said, Mother Lin, please also roll up your sleeves. The two of them rolled up their sleeves, revealing their left arms. One was as white as a jade root, and the other was as dry as a bamboo shoot. Chen Ning picked up a bit of the palace guarding sand and placed it on their arms. Bring a basin of water, she said. Chu Xiaoyang gave a look, and someone immediately brought over a basin of water. You can wash it yourselves, Chen Ning said. Xiaoru and Mother Lin scooped up some water and sprinkled it on their arms. Xiaoru forcefully rubbed it. Not only did the little red dot not fade, it actually became even brighter. Mother Lin gently rubbed it, and the little red dot disappeared without a trace. This result was already within Chu Xiaoyang's expectations. He looked at Chen Ning in a non-committal manner. It seems like this palace guarding sand isn't fake. Chen Ning understood Chu Xiaoyang's meaning. She slowly rolled up her left sleeve, revealing a snow-white arm. Chu Xiaoyang stared at her arm. He felt that this scene was familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it before. He couldn't help knitting his brows. Chen Ning curled her lips into a ridiculing smile and said, If your highness thinks my arm is ugly, then you don't have to look at it. There is no need to make this appearance. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned red and he angrily said, If you don't dare try, then say it now. Chen Ning did not say anything. She picked up a bit of sand and gently touched it on her left arm. It was like a red plum blossom in the snow, bright and glistening. She washed it with water, but the more she washed it, the more. Your Highness, this princess' innocence has already been revealed to everyone. Does your Highness have anything else to say? Chen Ning's eyes swept over the people in the yard before falling onto Chu Xiaoyang's face. Chu Xiaoyang's face alternated between green and red. His eyes stared right at Chen Ning with a very complicated look in them. Even Chen Ning could not guess what he was thinking in his heart. Chun. After a while, Chu Xiaoyang suddenly said these words before turning around and leaving with large steps. Everyone had come with His Highness to denounce him, but who would have thought that this would be the result? They all felt ashamed and dejectedly followed behind Chu Xiaoyang. Mother Meng and Mother Jiang from the palace ran faster than rabbits. On the other hand, Mother Lin followed the rules and said goodbye to Chen Ning. This large group of people came in an aggressive manner and left in a hurry. They came in a hurry and left in a hurry. The three maids of the flowing cloud pavilion couldn't help excitedly surrounding Chen Ning, chattering nonstop. Chapter 282. That's right, Xiaohi. Go. and tell housekeeper Sue that His Highness suddenly brought a large group of people and killed the cranes in my yard, scared away my parrots, and angered the koi fish in my pond to death. Make him pay back 10 times. Chen Ning directly shifted the blame onto Chu Xiaoyang. Since she was spending his money to buy things, she didn't feel any heartache at all. Yes, Princess Consort. This servant will go now. Xiaohe happily left. Princess Consort, this servant will go make something delicious for you. Chun Tao also smiled as she ran into the small kitchen. Only Xiao Ru followed Chen Ning back to her room, blinking her eyes as she looked at Chen Ning. What do you want to say now? Chen Ning looked at her. She sat in front of the dressing table and wiped off the thick makeup on her face. Young miss. Xiao Ru bit her lips, hesitating. If you have something to say, then say it. That's right, don't try to pull strings with me. Being provoked by Chun Ning, Xiao Ru blurted out, Young miss, do you plan on living with His Highness like this for the rest of your life? Chen Ning was stunned, but then she revealed a smile and said, Of course not. Which eye of yours sees that I plan on living with him for the rest of my life? Then, young miss, why do you have to prove your innocence? Isn't it better to let His Highness misunderstand? He will definitely write a divorce letter to divorce you. Won't you be able to leave the palace and regain your freedom like this? At that time, young miss, it doesn't matter if you like bodyguard He or that immortal young master. You can be with whoever you want. Xiao Ru was wholeheartedly thinking for Chen Ning. Chen Ning heard her naive and straightforward words, and her heart was touched. She waved her hand at her and had her sit down beside her. She pulled her hand and said, Xiao Ru, there are some things you don't understand. There are things a person can do and things they can't do. I do want to leave this prince's mansion, but I don't want to be burdened with a divorce letter, and I don't want to leave with an unclear reputation. I am a daughter of the Chun family. My father, Great General Chun, bathed in blood for the country and is loved by everyone, so I, as a daughter, cannot tarnish his reputation. I've told you before, one day, when I step out of this palace, I want Chu Xiaoyang to bow 3 times with each step and send me off. Do you believe that there will be a day like this? Her eyes were bright and firm. Hearing this, Xiao Ru's blood began to boil. Her little face turned red as she said, Young miss, this servant believes that this day will come. I also believe it. Chen Ning smiled as she pinched Xiao Ru's bulging cheeks. Her eyes suddenly turned, and she said to the window, Since you're here, why don't you come in? Hiding outside and eavesdropping isn't befitting of your identity as Black Protector, is it? Hey, bodyguard, hey. He's here? Xiao Ru suddenly jumped up and looked out the window. The 2 windows were sent flying by Chu Xiaoyang, and the scenery outside could be seen. There was not a single person in sight. Xiao Ru felt her eyes blur, and there was another person in the room. She was pleasantly surprised as she clapped her hands and said, Bodyguard, hey, you're back. Where's Xiao Si? S. Chen Ning's lips twitched. She angrily slapped the back of Xiao Ru's head and scolded, Xiao Ru, be reserved. Chen's, Chun, Chen's, Ning Chun. He Chen's emo, Chun I, Chen's Ning's I. You want to see Xiao Si? Xiao Ru was about to nod, but she suddenly saw Chun Ning staring at her with a serious gaze. She lowered her head and did not say a word. Chapter 283. You're a very interesting girl. Mo Chuan looked at Xiao Ru's back and suddenly said, She is interested in your Xiao Si. Chen Ning lazily said. She revealed a smile as she looked at Mo Chuan. You've been watching this show for so long. Why didn't you come out earlier? If I appeared, it would only make the water even more muddy. Mo Chuan replied. Chen Ning secretly praised him in her heart. He really was a smart person. When she was talking to Chu Xiaoyang alone, she was calm because she had a clear conscience. The only thing she was worried about was Mo Chuan suddenly appearing. Chu Xiaoyang would be enraged when he saw Mo Chuan, and she wouldn't be able to pass this easily. This time, I'm afraid it's that woman's trick again. Do you plan on enduring it? Mo Chuan stared into her eyes as he spoke. Don't you think that she tried to steal a chicken, but ended up losing the rice used to lure it? Contrary to Mo Chuan's expectations, Not only was Chun Ning not angry, she even smiled like a little fox that had stolen a chicken. Why do you say this? Everyone's mouths can melt gold, and the accumulated slander can melt away one's bones. The most difficult thing for a person is a clean reputation, but Chun Baiyun thought of such a good method and gave it to me for free. Tell me, shouldn't I thank her for her scheming? Chun Ning's eyes turned, and she suddenly thought of a good method. Then how do you want to repay her? Mo Chuan was curious. She's pregnant, so she needs to eat more supplements. Then I'll give her some supplements. Chun Ning's eyes looked over the white bellies of the carp in the pond. She clapped her hands and spoke with a smile. Asterisk Chun Baiyun couldn't eat anything right now. She leaned against the headboard and felt her chest fill up. Nothing she saw was pleasing to the eye. There were no secrets in the king's palace. Very quickly, everything that happened in the flowing cloud pavilion spread like wildfire and entered her ears. She never would have thought that the good method she had thought of to ruin Chun Ning's reputation would actually help her clean reputation in front of everyone. She was so angry that she almost crushed her teeth. However, the messenger couldn't see the change in her expression and was still describing what happened after that. Then housekeeper Su personally sent 5 cranes, 10 parrots, and 50 carps to the princess consort's flowing cloud pavilion. I heard that it cost a large amount of money. She only had a few carps that died. Why did he have to compensate her with 50? Chun Baiyun became even angrier. Each of these carps were worth a lot of money. Although His Highness loved her, he only gave her 10 of them. She became even angrier the more she thought about it. She grabbed a vase beside her and threw it. With a kalang, the vase was smashed to pieces. Consort, consort, consort. What happened to you? The 2 maids who had just been sent by housekeeper Su to serve her rushed over when they heard the commotion. This concubine's stomach. Her stomach is hungry. Chun Baiyun rolled her eyes and made up a reason. Go to the kitchen and make something for this concubine. When the 2 maidservants came back, they brought 2 large boxes of food. It was a dazzling lineup, and a fragrant smell filled the air. There was also a bowl of hot soup that was as white as milk, releasing a very tempting fragrance. Chun Baiyun did not feel hungry at all, but when she smelled the fragrance of the soup, she said, "Bring the soup over for me to drink." This soup was fragrant and fresh, with a bit of spiciness to it. It was very appetizing, so Chun Baiyun was very satisfied. Chapter 284. A maid replied, reporting to the concubine consort, "This is carp soup. I heard that the concubine consort sent people to the kitchen, and even the method of making this soup was personally taught by the concubine consort. If the concubine consort likes it, this servant will bring another bowl for the concubine consort." She did not even have time to turn around before she heard a wah sound. Chun Baiyun had completely spat out the fish soup she had just drunk. Chun Ning, Chun Baiyun, will never forgive you. She had just sworn in her heart when she felt another wave of nausea coming from her throat, and she began to vomit again. Asterisk when the news was sent to the flowing cloud pavilion. Xiao Ru was filled with joy as she cried out in joy. "Young miss, how can you be sure that the second miss will drink that carp soup?" she asked while suppressing her laughter. "What? Are you looking down on your young miss cooking skills?" Chun Ning looked at her. There was also a bowl of white fish soup in front of her that was very fragrant. She smiled as she picked it up and took a sip. Then she sighed and said, "Such a delicious soup," but she actually spat it all out. AI, cheap people really are unreasonable. When Xiao Ru, Chun Tao, and Xia He heard this, they couldn't hold back their laughter. The 3 maids were laughing and laughing when they suddenly stopped, like they had gone mute. Chun Ning felt this was strange. She looked up and saw that Mo Chuan was standing outside the window without her knowing. He was like a ghost, releasing a cold aura from his body. It was no wonder the 3 maids were so scared that they did not dare say anything. She smiled as she sent the 3 of them away. Then she waved at Mo Chuan. "Xiao Hei, come in and have a bowl of fish soup. It's very fresh and fragrant. I'm sure you'll like it." The fish soup was indeed very fragrant and fresh, but when Mo Chuan thought about how this soup was made from the carp he had killed last night, he did not have any appetite at all. You little girl, you really know how to play tricks on people. Chen Ning said with a smile. Aren't you wronging my good intentions? I've already drunk this fish soup. It's very fresh and nutritious. It's just that she doesn't know what's good for her. She looked at Mo Chuan with her chin and her eyes turned. She suddenly thought of something and said with a smile, Xiao Hei, if you don't like fish soup, I have a special bowl of soup prepared for you. And Mo Chuan's eyes lit up. Oh. He saw Chen Ning take out a large bowl of red soup and place it in front of him. Chili soup. He couldn't help but frown. He knew how spicy the soup was the moment he smelled it. Did she want him to drink this? That's right. You and Little White turned my yard upside down and even dislocated my arm. How do you think I should punish you? Xiao Bai has already drunk this soup, so do you want to drink it? Chen Ning deliberately teased him. He must be someone who doesn't eat spicy food. Chuan Kan he Chin Kan, he chun he wanted. Kan chun. Ch. Chun. Kan's chun. Chun. Is he his Kan is his. Chun. Chun. Xiao Hei you're not spicy? She looked at him in a daze. Mo Chuan was wearing a mask, so she couldn't see his face. However, his ears instantly turned red, even redder than the chili in his bowl. He wanted to say it wasn't spicy at all. Chapter 285. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. A burst of laughter came from outside the window. The voice was clear and pleasant to the ear. Along with the laughter, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the window. A white robe fluttered in the wind, looking like a blooming flower in the night. Brat hey, so you can't eat spicy food. Chu Xiao Bai's brows relaxed as he revealed a spirited smile. Seeing Mo Chuan's sorry appearance, he felt like the kicks and punches on his body were not as painful anymore. Mo Chuan quickly turned around and glared at him. He wanted to curse, but his throat was so hoarse that he couldn't say anything. It was a good thing that he didn't need his mouth to say something. For example, fists. Mo Chuan's brows jumped up and he floated forward. His movements were as fast as a ghost as he threw a punch at Chu Xiao Bai's handsome face. Hey, don't hit the face when you hit people. Brat hey, are you jealous that my face is prettier than yours? Chu Xiao Bai nodded and his head shrank in his chest, dodging this punch. Humph! Mo Chuan's reply was a cold snort and a kick that came right after. Io, Brat hey, you're really kicking me. Chu Xiao Bai could not dodge this time. A heavy pain came from his butt, and he fell from the roof. It was a good thing his qigong was not bad. With a slight bend in the air, he landed on the ground with his head up and feet down. I won't fight. Brat hey, I admit that your martial arts are better than mine. I can't beat you. So how about we turn enemies into friends? Chu Xiao Bai's figure flashed, and he dodged Mo Chuan's follow-up attack as he waved his hand. He had fought with Mo Chuan twice, and he was at a disadvantage both times. He knew that the other side's martial arts were much higher than his, but he was being lenient and did not kill him. He didn't know why, but although Mo Chuan was a stranger, he felt a sense of familiarity. Mo Chuan wanted to say in his heart, who would turn enemies into friends. You perverted brat, taking advantage of others. But his throat was hoarse and he couldn't say anything. Hey, Brat hey, your martial arts are not bad. With you protecting Ning, I can be assured. Chu Xiao Bai revealed a faint smile. He took out a small medicine bottle from his chest and gave it to Mo Chuan. Eat this and your throat will feel a bit better. Mo Chuan coldly looked at the medicine bottle, but he did not take it. He suddenly jumped off the ground and onto the roof. His black clothes quickly melted into the night and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chen Ning was already used to him leaving as he pleased, coming and going without a trace. Seeing this, she did not find it strange and just revealed a faint smile. Chu Xiao Bai gave a large praise. Good martial arts. He paused and then said, This fellow is really proud. He was a little embarrassed as he put the bottle in his hand back in his chest and unconsciously rubbed his chin. Although Mo Chuan did not say a word, the cold and arrogant aura he released could not be ignored. Chun, Chun and he. Chun and he. I and he and he of and he comma of of. Although she had agreed to help Mo Chuan had not asked her how to help him. Chu Xiaobai became anxious when he heard this. He secretly whispered, "This brat Hay wouldn't be thinking about Ning Er, right?" Chapter 286. It was unknown what Ning was thinking about, but she didn't hear it clearly. She casually asked, "Who am I not allowed to like?" Chu Xiaobai's face turned slightly red. When he wanted to say something, his expression suddenly changed. He gave a sh sound to Ning and said, "Someone's coming." His expression turned serious, like an enemy had come. Ning's eyes sparkled as she followed Chu Xiaobai's line of sight to look out the window. She saw the cold moonlight in the courtyard, like mercury spilling over the ground, covering the ground in a silver white. She was wondering about this when she saw a leaf being blown away by the wind. There was an extra gray-clothed figure in the courtyard. Xiao Hei! She thought that it was Mo Chuan who had returned, but upon closer inspection, it wasn't. The gray-clothed figure bowed down to Chu Xiaobai. This subordinate greets King Jing, and Chu Xiaobai's lips slightly twitched as he snappily said, "Jue Feng, why is it you? What matter do you have with this king that you actually found this place? You really are worthy of the Jue Feng name. Your tracking skills are well-deserved." The gray-clothed figure stood up. King Jingin's praise. This subordinate does not dare accept it. King Jingin, the emperor has an edict. Emperor? Chu Xiaobai knit his brows and helplessly said, "Speak. What matter does the emperor have with me? He wouldn't be calling this king to play chess with him, right? Go and tell the emperor that this king doesn't have time. Your Highness doesn't have time to play chess with the emperor, but you do have time to chat with the Dingyuan princess." The gray-clothed Jie Feng softly said as he looked over at Ning. "Jue Feng, you brat, your words are becoming more and more lawless. Don't rely on the emperor's support to not put this king in your eyes." Chu Xiaobai's face turned serious as he revealed a stern expression. "This subordinate does not dare. This subordinate is only following the emperor's orders to send your highness a decree. As for what I shouldn't hear or see, I won't hear or see." Jue Feng bowed to Chu Xiaobai in a very respectful manner. Chu Xiaobai's expression relaxed a bit as he said, "What does the emperor want this king to do?" Jue Feng replied, "The emperor has a very important matter for your highness to do, and this matter requires your highness to make a move. This is the emperor's secret edict. Your highness will know once you see it." He took out a yellow handkerchief from his chest and presented it to Chu Xiaobai with both hands. Chu Xiaobai asked in a suspicious voice, "When the emperor orders me, didn't he say you? Why did he write an imperial edict today?" He stretched out his hand to take it. When he saw that the ink was still wet, he became even more suspicious. He looked around and asked, "Did the emperor just write this?" Jue Feng gave a cough and said, "This is sweat from this subordinate's body." Chu Xiaobai looked over the words on the decree and found that it was indeed the emperor's handwriting. But when he saw the content, he immediately said in an angry voice, "This is the important matter that requires this king's attention. Is your majesty teasing this prince?" Jue Feng replied, "This subordinate does not know. This subordinate is only responsible for passing the decree. As for whether to follow the decree or not, it is up to your highness." Chu Xiaobai gave a cold laugh. "You're pushing everything away. Wang Ye, the Empress Dowager has fallen ill from worry, and the Emperor is busy with court affairs. Only if Wang Ye takes care of this matter will the Emperor be at ease." "All right, I'll go. You can report to the Emperor. Once the sun rises, this king will immediately leave." Chu Xiaobai gave a helpless sigh. Jue Feng stood in the same spot without moving. "Why aren't you leaving?" Chu Xiaobai looked over at him and asked. "The emperor has a decree asking your highness to leave immediately." Chapter 287. Zhu Feng's eyes looked at Chen Ning again before bowing and saying, "This subordinate will leave. Your Highness, please leave as soon as possible." He slowly moved back, and the gray figure gently swayed before quickly disappearing. "Xiao Bai, is this Zhu Feng?" Chen Ning saw this and could vaguely guess a few things. He is the Emperor's most trusted secret guard. Chu Xiaobai let out a long sigh. His face was filled with anger as he said, "This Emperor uncle just likes to cause trouble for me. Ninger, I have something to do in the capital, so I won't be able to accompany you for a few days. You have to take care of yourself. Also, you have to keep your distance from that brat He, otherwise he won't have any good intentions towards you." Ning secretly felt this was very funny. She suppressed her laughter and nodded as she said, "All right, I understand. You can go in peace." Chu Xiaobai did not mention it, and she did not ask what it was. As long as it was something related to the Emperor's family, it was better to know as little as possible. "You can be assured I will definitely come back on the day of the big hunt. I will think of a way to help you win, and I will not let you be imprisoned by my third brother for the rest of your life. Ning, or wait for me to come back." Chen Ning nodded with a faint smile. "Xiao Bai, it's not like we're going to be separated forever. You don't need to be this reluctant." Chu Xiaobai's face turned red again. He was indeed reluctant. He had just tasted a bit of sweetness with her when the Emperor's decree broke them apart. He had a stomach full of things to say, but he didn't even have time to say them. Not knowing why, he suddenly had a feeling that when he came back, perhaps she would no longer be his. "Ninger, can I hug you again?" He gathered his courage and looked at her, nervously beating his heart. Chen Ning's face couldn't help turning red. Before she could say anything, she heard Zhu Feng's voice sound out from outside the window again. "Your Highness is not in a rush to hug a beauty. When your Highness comes back, what is yours will still be yours." The voice was leisurely and had a hint of ridicule in it. "Zhu Feng, you brat, you're seeking death." Chu Xiaobai was embarrassed and angry. He suddenly jumped out the window and turned to look at Chen Ning, saying, "Wait for me." His white robe flashed, and he had already jumped into the flowers to the side. When Chu Xiaobai left, he promised that he would come back before the big hunt. But Chen Ning did not have a habit of not fighting a battle. Even if Chu Xiaobai didn't appear that day, she would not give up so easily. Since it was a hunting event, not only did it require excellent horsemanship, but it also required excellent archery. Chen Ning knew that her archery was her weak point, so she placed a few grass targets in the yard and began to practice her archery. However, archery wasn't something that could be done in one go, and a good memory wasn't enough to make every arrow hit. Every time she shot an arrow, it would either hit the edge of the target, or it would fly out of the target and land on the ground beside the target. "Chun, mo chun. You. Chun." He Ning again. As he. Even though Chun Ning was used to his sneaky movements, she was still shocked. Her fingers loosened and the arrow flew out of her hand. However, it flew away from its target and flew straight at Xiao Ru, who was watching from the side. Xiao Ru was stunned and stood in place, not moving at all. "Xiao Ru, quickly get out of the way," Chen Ning exclaimed. Chapter 288. He grabbed the tail of the arrow in the air. The arrow tip was less than a foot away from Xiao Ru's chest. It was truly a close call. Chen Ning broke out in a cold sweat. She rushed over to hug Xiao Ru and comforted her. Xiao Ru had escaped from death. After a while, she let out a wah cry. She thanked Mo Chuan while sobbing. "Bodyguard He, thank you for saving me." Mo Chuan looked at her and softly said, "Your young miss is practicing archery. It's not safe here." What did he mean? Was he thinking that her archery skills were too bad? Chen Ning suspiciously looked at Mo Chuan. Who would have thought that Xiao Ru would understand? She blinked and said, "Young miss, with Bodyguard He teaching you archery, you can definitely beat that bastard Highness. This servant will go help Chun Tao make some desserts. Bodyguard He, they're your favorite plum blossom cakes and lotus cakes." After saying this, she giggled and ran away. Chen Ning had told Chun Tao how to make these two desserts. After Chun Tao made them, Everyone tasted them and felt that they were delicious, but they never thought that Mo Chuan would eat them the most. Chinning never thought that a cold assassin like Mo Chuan would like to eat sweet and crispy food. Mo Chuan's eyes slightly narrowed as he watched Xiao Ru run away. Everyone said that this girl was stupid, but she was actually quite smart when she needed to be. You have to hold the bow like this. Hold the bow between your thumb and index finger, put the arrow on the bend of your index finger, and pull the bowstring with the 3 fingers of your right hand. Mo Chuan took the bow from Chun Ning's hands and took an arrow from the side. He placed the arrow on the bow and began to demonstrate. Don't look at the target. Pull it slowly like this. His hands loosened. Xiao! The arrow flew through the air and hit the bull's eye. Good archery. Chun Ning clapped her hands and praised. Mo Chuan looked at her in a non-committal manner and gave the bow to her. You do it. Chun Ning held the bow like he did before. Mo Chuan shook his head and said, No, it's like this. His large palm reached out and grabbed her hand. Mo Chuan shook his head and said, It's not right, it's like this. Chun Ning was very serious, not noticing that the two of them were in a very intimate position. Mo Chuan's tall and slender body was tall, and his long arms wrapped around her chest. Her back was leaning against his chest as her eyes lit up, and she revealed a faint smile. Shoot! When Mo Chuan's voice fell, Chun Ning let go, and the arrow flew out. This time it did not miss, and it hit the bull eye. Not bad. You learned very quickly. Mo Chuan slightly lowered his head and looked at her. A few strands of her soft hair brushed past the tip of his nose. It was a little ticklish and carried a little sweet fragrance. It was exactly the same as the scent that was emitted from her body. He suddenly remembered the night when she was drunk. On the empty street, he had also hugged her like this. At that time, her cheeks were red, and she was talking and laughing. She even said that he was a big bad wolf, and she was a little white rabbit. Looking at her petite appearance as she leaned against his chest, she really did look like a little white rabbit. Then Chun Ning did not notice his burning gaze on her face. This was her first time hitting the bull's eye, so she was very excited. She turned around and said, Xiao He. She did not know that he had lowered his head and was very close to her. When she turned around, her forehead coincidentally touched his thin lips. It was like she was purposely turning her head to let him kiss her. The two of them were both stunned. For a moment, neither of them moved. Chapter 289. Chun Ning's reaction was much more natural than his. Shaking hands, hugging, and kissing cheeks to her from the modern era was just a kind of polite contact. It did not mean anything ambiguous. She was just a little embarrassed. She coughed softly and left his embrace. She faintly raised her eyebrows and picked up another arrow. She placed it on the bow and said with a smile, This time, I'll shoot it myself. If I hit it, I'll worship you as my teacher. Mo Chuan's eyes stared right at her face, and there was a strange flame in his eyes. His chest was filled with an inexplicable anger. How could she act like nothing had happened? Could it be that the touch just now was purely an illusion? Did nothing happen between them? It didn't hit. Chun Ning shook her head in regret and put down the bow. Looking over, she saw that Mo Chuan was still in the same position without moving at all. It seemed like he still hadn't recovered from that accident. Chun Ning rubbed her nose, and her face began to slightly heat up. She really didn't do it on purpose. This Mo Chuan, would he misunderstand that she was taking advantage of him? That's right, the ancient people always took this kind of thing very seriously. Wu Xiao He just now. It was a pure accident. It was just a coincidence. Oh no, it was just me turning around. I really didn't want to take advantage of you, hey. Why are you staring at me like that? You wouldn't want me to take responsibility, right? Actually, it wasn't a big deal. Wasn't it just your lips accidentally touching my forehead? If you think you suffered a loss, then I'll give it back to you. She looked up and kissed his chin with a paw sound. Who told him to be too tall? Even if she stood on her tiptoes, she wouldn't be able to kiss his forehead, so she could only use his chin to kiss him. But after kissing him, she realized that he was wearing a human skin mask, and her lips were kissing a dead person's skin. Her face instantly changed, and her throat felt itchy as she began to vomit in disgust. Mo Chuan still had not recovered from her sudden kiss. Seeing her disgusting appearance, his face turned green, then purple, and then black like the bottom of a pot. His hands turned into fists, and his joints began to crack. His eyes seemed like they were about to spit fire, just like an enraged lion. What was the meaning of this? Was there anyone who humiliated people like this? Just kissing him made her this disgusting? He wasn't some dirty thing that couldn't be seen. In that instant, Mo Chuan had a strong urge to strangle this woman to death. Chun Ning rubbed her chest and suddenly felt a chill run down her back. She turned around to see Mo Chuan's frighteningly cold eyes and his furrowed brows, instantly making her jump in fright. Why did it seem like she had angered him? She didn't do anything at all? Mo Chuan did his best to control his breathing. Each word was squeezed out from between his teeth, bringing with it a cold chill. Mo of the two. Chun Ning was stunned for a second, but then she realized why he was so angry. She broke out in laughter, laughing as she fell back and forth. It's not that I think you're dirty, it's that you're wearing a human skin mask. When I think about who knows which dead person's skin I just kissed, and it might even be the skin of a butt, I want to vomit, ugh. She laughed when she said the word, but her stomach churned and she almost vomited again. Chapter 290. Are you feeling better now? Mo Chuan's low and gentle voice came from above her head. There was no anger in his voice at all. He was no longer angry, not even a little angry. Much better. His palm had a gentle strength that made her feel much more comfortable. She looked up at him with a smile and was instantly stunned. He had actually taken off the mask on his face. The faint golden sunlight shone on his face, causing his pair of cold and handsome eyes to become overflowing with color. His temperament was distant and cold. When he was not talking or smiling, he was like a green lotus that could topple the world, but under the sunlight, he was like a resplendent body of light, sparkling and dazzling. When she was drunk that night, she was only amazed at his good looks. Now that she was carefully looking at him under the sunlight, the only word she could think of to describe him was still that one word. Good looking. He lowered his eyes to look at her. His pupils were very black. His eyelashes were thick. His skin was as warm as jade, and his lips were slightly pursed, revealing a faint red. After a long time, Chun Ning finally gave a regretful sigh. Xiaohei, you're so good-looking, but you chose to be an assassin. What a pity. Mo Chuan's face turned dark again. His brows revealed a trace of anger, but it made him look even more beautiful. Then what do you think I should do? He said through gritted teeth. Relying on one's face to make a living, other than the brothel girls, what else could there be? This girl was clearly scolding him in a roundabout way. Chun Ning was stunned for a bit, but then she revealed a smile. You can become the emperor, she said in a serious voice. What did you say? Mo Chuan's brows jumped up, and his pupils instantly shrank. A single smile can topple a city. Another smile can topple a country. You're this good-looking. If you become the emperor, as long as you smile at your enemy countries or ministers, they will all kneel at your feet. Wouldn't that save a lot of manpower and resources? The colder he was, the more Chun Ning wanted to tease him. Thinking of the last time she saw him, he always released a cold aura and killing intent, but now she couldn't feel it at all. Didn't this mean that in front of her, he was just pretending to be strong on the outside? Mo Chuan's chin tightened and his dark eyes became deep and cold. She found that although he had taken off his mask, she still couldn't see through him. Are you angry? I was just joking with you. If you don't like it, then I won't say it next time. She remembered that he was an assassin and he was a proud man. A man like him, what he hated the most was being judged by others. Everyone had their reverse scale. It seemed like his face was his reverse scale and she couldn't touch it. Chun Ning stuck her tongue out and said, So dangerous. Don't go, let's start. He grasped her shoulder and stopped her from turning away. Mo Chuan. He did not say anything. M.O. 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 Chuan. What do you mean? She blinked her eyes. Seeing his dark eyes staring at her, she suddenly understood and blushed. It turned out that he took off his mask so that she could kiss his chin again. Chen Ning was embarrassed and angry. Her clear eyes stared right at him. She wanted to see just how thick this man's skin was. Mo Chuan calmly looked at her, without any ripples in his eyes. Chapter 291. The calmer he was, the redder Chen Ning's face became. She didn't know where she got the courage to kiss him, but now he was seriously asking her for the kiss she owed him. All right, I'll return it to you. Chen Ning bit her lips. It was just a kiss. Wasn't like she would lose a piece of flesh. Mo Chuan stood straight with his chin slightly raised, looking like he was waiting for a kiss. How could this fellow be so tall? Chen Ning cursed in her heart. His head was lower before, so she could kiss him when she looked up, but now she needed to stand on her tiptoes to kiss him. Pung, 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 pung. Her hand was placed on his chest, and she could feel his heart beating very fast. But his face still had that cold and indifferent look. She never thought that this fellow would say something different. Chen Ning secretly found this funny and deliberately complained, AI, why are you so tall? I can't reach you. Mo Chuan's body slightly froze, and his thick eyelashes blinked down. Then he slowly lowered his head with a calm expression. Her stomach was about to burst from laughing, but as soon as she saw his dark and deep eyes, which were like two deep wells, her smile froze on her lips. No, she couldn't look into this fellow's eyes. It was simply bewitching. Chen Ning felt like her heart was beating as fast as his. She quickly looked down and took a deep breath. She slightly pouted her lips and kissed his chin. She was prepared to quickly finish the kiss she owed him and then leave. Dang! The sound of plates shattering came from behind them, followed by Xiao Ru's shocked scream. Young miss, what are you doing? Chen Ning quickly pushed Mo Chuan away and jumped far away from him. Her face was as red as an apple. Not far from them, Xiao Ru's mouth was wide open and her eyes were wide open, revealing a look of disbelief. Under her feet was a pile of broken porcelain plates, and freshly baked plum cakes and lotus cakes were scattered all over the ground, giving off a fragrant and piping hot air. Xiao Ru, you're not allowed to shout. Chen Ning rushed over to cover Xiao Ru's mouth before she could let out a second scream. This girl who made a fuss over nothing, was she prepared to let everyone know? There was nothing between her and Mo Chuan, but with her shouting like this, it seemed like there was something. Actually, there was nothing at all. Woo, 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 woo. Xiao Ru's eyes turned. She wanted to say something, but her mouth was covered by Chen Ning. Remember, you're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to shout. Forget what you just saw. Forget it all. Remember, there is nothing between me and him. Nothing has happened at all. Chen Ning gave her a warning look. Woo, 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 woo. Xiao Ru seemed to understand as she blinked and nodded. Chen Ning let out a sigh of relief and then said, You're not allowed to shout. Xiao, xiao, xiao. Xiao Ning nodded. Xiao, Chen Ning. Xiao Ru let out a long sigh. She stared at Mo Chuan, who had taken off his mask, and her eyes almost popped out. You are. Guard, hey. Chen Ning heard her take a deep breath. He could only blame Mo Chuan for being too handsome. No wonder he wore a human skin mask all day. If he revealed his face and walked on the street, he would instantly become the focus of everyone's attention. Chapter 292. Mo Chuan was indeed very good-looking, but his face was not very good right now. His face was calm, but his cold eyes made Xiao Ru shiver several times from a cold. He decided to take back his words from before. This stupid girl would always be a stupid girl. Humph! He gave a cold snort and turned to leave. When he passed by Chen Ning, his lips slightly parted and she could clearly hear two words. Only two words came out. I owe you. Under the dazzling sunlight, his black-clothed figure disappeared into the flowers in a flash. Chen Ning's face turned hot again. Owe you? She couldn't even remember how many things she owed him. Thinking of how Xiao Ru had seen her tiptoeing to kiss him like she had been bewitched, she felt her face turn even hotter and her body turn even hotter. This sun is really poisonous. Why is it so hot? I want to get some air and get some fresh air. Xiao Ru, stop right there. You're not allowed to follow me. I'm just going out for a walk. Chen Ning patted her burning cheeks. She sped up and quickly left the flowing cloud pavilion. Xiao Ru looked up at the sky, covered in dark clouds, in a daze. Where was the sun? The young miss was clearly lying with her eyes wide open. She thought of eldest young miss's completely red face and realized that eldest young miss was actually shy. Chen Ning walked out of the flowing cloud pavilion's gates and walked along the shore filled with willows. Her heart was in a mess, and thinking of the scene just now, her face turned hot. It was clearly an unintentional touch, but it had turned into something else. It was like there was something going on between them. What did that Mo Chuan mean? The more she thought about it, the more she felt like he was teasing her. Don't look at his calm, cold, and indifferent appearance. He was actually very bad in his bones. Humph. If I owe you, then I'll never return it, Chen Ning hatefully thought. While walking, she casually broke off a willow branch and broke it into pieces. Pump! She suddenly felt a pain in her nose like she had bumped into something disgusting. Her eyes instantly filled with tears. How bold! Who dares to attack this king? Do you not want to live anymore? A cold voice sounded from above her head. That familiar voice made Chen Ning's body tremble. Chu Xiaoyang. She slightly looked up and saw Chu Xiaoyang's usual black robe. There was a golden python embroidered on the chest with 5 colored threads. She rubbed her nose and angrily thought, why did he come to the flowing cloud pavilion for no reason? He was just standing there like a tree, not moving at all, causing her to bump into him while she was walking. Enemies really met on a narrow road. Chu Xiaoyang had been standing here for a long time, so long that he almost turned into a statue. He didn't know why he had come to Little Mirror Lake. He just stared at the mirror-like surface of the lake, lost in thought. He did not like water, and he was even afraid of it. 8 years ago, he lost his footing and fell into the water. That terrifying experience was still fresh in his memory. So although this Little Mirror Lake was beautiful, he rarely came here. But today he had somehow walked over here and stood there for 4 hours. Xiao Xiao Chuan He Shi He. In the dark lake water, his body slowly sank. His heart was filled with fear and despair. He reached out his hands in the water, trying to find a life-saving straw. Chapter 293. He drank large mouthfuls of water. His stomach bulged, and his lungs felt like they were going to explode. The suffocation in front of him made his eyes turn black. Am I going to die? Am I really going to die? At this moment, he saw someone break through the water and quickly swim over to him, firmly holding onto his ice-cold hand. He had already fallen into a half-conscious state, allowing that person to bring him up to the surface of the lake. That person's jet black hair danced in the water, and her arms were nimbly moving in the water. Slightly tilting her head, Chu Xiaoyang could see her face. It was a little girl. She was only 7-8 years old, but she was already beautiful and refined. It made him feel as if a bright moon had risen, its clear radiance dispelling the darkness of the lake. He wanted to ask, "Little girl, are you a fairy from the lake? Or a fairy formed from a lotus flower?" But when he opened his mouth, the lake water continued to enter his mouth, so he could only tightly close his mouth. He could not speak, but he could smile. His smile was like a spring breeze. "Little girl, no matter who you are, even if you're a mountain spirit or a water monster, I will take you. When you grow up, I will definitely take you as my wife." His consciousness slowly fell into unconsciousness. When he woke up from his unconsciousness and opened his eyes, he saw her. It was still that little girl. She was kneeling beside him, with her black cloud-like hair covering her face and body. She looked like a mess, but in his eyes, she was still that beautiful. Her large black eyes kept pouring out tears as she kept saying, "Don't die, don't die." He smiled. "Silly girl, I still have to wait for you to grow up and marry you. How could I bear to die?" He tightly held her hand, want to tell her this. But before he could say anything, he fell back into unconsciousness. Later, Chu Xiaoyang's fingers deeply dug into the tree trunk as he stared at the lake with eyes filled with hatred and loathing. Although he had married her as he wished, he could never let her become his legal princess, his only wife. Chen Ning, it's you, it's all because of you. It's all because of you that I broke the promise I made in the past. It's all because of you. He fiercely gritted his teeth. Thinking of how he had kicked her into the lake that day, he gritted his teeth and said, "Why didn't you drown back then?" His entire mind was engulfed in hatred, and he didn't notice anyone approaching, until Chen Ning bumped into his chest, suddenly waking him up. Then he flew into a rage. "Who are you?" He grabbed Chen Ning's collar and asked in a sharp voice. "It's over, she can't run." Chen Ning wanted to look up, but she suddenly realized that she had no makeup on her face. Damn! She immediately lowered her head, almost burying it in her neck. She said vaguely, "I am a servant girl in the manor. You are not a maid at all." Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold laugh. Among the maids in this king's palace, who dares to not call themselves servants in front of this king? Chen Ning never thought that her words would expose her. She secretly cursed Chu Xiaoyang for being so cunning and slippery. Nothing could escape his eyes. "If you don't tell the truth, then this king will throw you into the lake to feed the turtles." Chu Xiaoyang's sharp voice cut her off. She continued to bury her head and vaguely said, This servant has just entered the palace and doesn't know the rules yet. If you don't tell the truth, then this king will throw you into the lake to feed the turtles." Chu Xiaoyang's sharp voice cut her off. Chen Ning's eyes turned, trying to think of an excuse to get past this. Chapter 294. This faint familiar scent was the unique scent of her body. It was still fresh in his mind when he was in her room yesterday, but she always had heavy makeup on when she appeared in front of him. That thick makeup made his nose hurt. Hearing Chu Xiaoyang call out her name, Chen Ning's head became bigger with a wong sound. Her face was completely clean without a single trace of makeup on. He would immediately recognize her as the culprit who threw those 2 thunderbolt eggs at him. There was no one here, so even if he killed her, no one would know. No, she couldn't let him recognize her. "Chen Ning, weren't you insulting this king yesterday? How come you don't even dare raise your head when you see this king today?" Chu Xiaoyang saw that her head was lowered, revealing her beautiful neck and snow-white skin. His heart slightly skipped a beat, but then he curled his cold lips into a cold smile. "You were quite courageous yesterday and had quite the courage, so this king spared your life. I never thought that you were faking it. Now that you've been exposed, you're a fellow as timid as a mouse. Do you think this king will let you go today?" His body was filled with a cold, killing intent. Chen Ning couldn't help grinding her teeth. She could hear that this bastard highness was speaking the truth. He really wanted her dead. Damn Mo Chuan, where's her bodyguard? Why hadn't he appeared yet? She was about to be silenced by this bastard highness. This really is heaven giving you a path, but you don't want to take it. Chen Ning, you've delivered yourself to me, so don't blame this king for being merciless. Chu Xiaoyang felt like the heavens were protecting him. The person he was gritting his teeth with hatred had suddenly fallen into his embrace. "Chen Ning, you're about to die. What else do you have to say?" He coldly said. He saw that she still had her head down, not saying a single word. This wasn't like the way she usually acted in front of him, with a smile that wasn't a smile, but was also unruly. He began to suspect that the woman in front of him was not Chen Ning. "Raise your head," he yelled. He grabbed her chin and forcefully lifted it up, forcing her to look up. His cold gaze fell on her clean face, and he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Who are you?" he said in a hoarse voice. Chen Ning turned her head to the side and did not even look at him. She disdainfully said, "You already know the answer. Are you really Chen Ning?" He pinched her chin. That familiar, smooth feeling told him that it was Chen Ning without a doubt. But her face, although she didn't have a thick layer of makeup like usual, her eyes were crooked and her mouth was crooked. Chu Xiaoyang took another look and felt a wave of disgust. He reached out and pushed her away, causing her back to hit a tree trunk. How did your face become like this? His face was filled with disgust. If he looked at her again, he would vomit. Chen Ning squeezed her big and small eyes and twisted her lips. She said in a slurred voice, "This princess becoming like this is all thanks to your highness. Yesterday you broke my window and didn't send anyone to help me fix it. In the end, the wind was strong and blew all night, so this princess face became crooked from the wind. Chen, you have my eyes. Don't you want my life? You." Chapter 295. Chen Ning, your heart is evil. Your appearance is ugly. Your heart is like a snake. That's why you look like this. You reap what you sow. This is God's punishment for you. This king won't kill you, but if this king lets you die, it would be too easy on you, humph. Chu Xiaoyang waved his sleeve and walked away, not looking back again. Chen Ning waited until Chu Xiaoyang's shadow disappeared before she rubbed her face. She no longer pretended to have that crooked mouth and eyes. Her back was covered in a cold sweat. If she hadn't thought of this method in a moment of desperation, she would have lost her little life already. So dangerous, so dangerous. She wiped the cold sweat off her face and quickly walked towards the flowing cloud pavilion. Who would have thought that as soon as she entered the flowing cloud pavilion, the hairs on the back of her neck would stand up and she would feel a chill? She did not need to turn around and know what was going on. That damn Chu Xiaoyang had returned. Don't turn around. This king doesn't want to see your ugly face. It really was Chu Xiaoyang. Following that, a veil fell into her hands. Chen Ning stopped in shock. Put it on. This king has something to say to you. Chu Xiaoyang said. Could it be that when he left, he wanted to get her a veil? Chen Ning muttered in her heart as she put the veil on her face. Humph! How could that bastard highness be this kind? He must have thought that her face was too ugly and was afraid of dirtying his eyes, so he made her wear a veil. This was exactly what she wanted to do. It saved her the trouble of pretending to have that crooked mouth and eyes. If you have something to say, then say it. Chen Ning turned around and looked at him with a faint expression. She found that his brows were slightly knit and his eyes were staring at the haystacks in the corner, looking like he was thinking of something. She could see that the killing intent in his eyes had disappeared, and his face was filled with disdain and disgust. You're practicing archery? Chu Xiaoyang's lips curled into a taunting smile. You want to win against this king on the day of the big hunt? With just your poor archery skills, you really are dreaming. He noticed that only one of the 3 haystacks had an arrow stuck in the center of the bullseye, while the rest of the arrows were scattered around. At a glance, he could tell that this was the level of a beginner. Even if she was a genius, it was impossible for her to learn archery in just 3 short days. So she was bound to lose. It's still the same words. Don't be too confident. Even if my archery skills aren't good enough, how do you know that I won't be able to beat you in 3 days? Although Chen Ning was wearing a veil, her eyes were bright and filled with determination. Very good. Chu Xiaoyang nodded. This was the Chen Ning he was familiar with. Stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat, but he would make her admit defeat sooner or later. Chen Ning, watch this carefully. He gently lifted the hem of his robe and slowly rolled up his long sleeves. He picked up the iron limb bow at the side and took out 10 long arrows from the quiver. He stretched his long arms and pulled the bowstring. Chen Ning's eyes opened wide. He had actually 10 arrows at the same time. Chen Ning had 10 arrows at once. Could it be that he knew the legendary cloud-piercing rapid arrow? Chen, a series of arrows rained down on the bullseye. Each arrow pierced through the tail of the previous arrow and split the shaft in 2. Finally, there was only 1 arrow left in the bullseye. The arrows were still shaking. If she had not seen it with her own eyes, Chen Ning would have found it hard to believe that there was such a magical archery skill in this world. Good archery skills. Chen Ning sincerely clapped her hands in praise. Chapter 296. No wonder Chu Xiaobai's expression changed when he heard that she was making a bet with his 3rd brother. This bastard highness archery skills were not just for show. But what did he mean by showing this skill in front of her? Chen Ning, you can't win against this king. Chu Xiaoyang's hand holding the bow slightly trembled, and that iron-like bow suddenly broke in two. He threw the broken bow to the ground and coldly looked at Chen Ning from the corner of his eyes. She suddenly understood what he meant. He was here to show off his skill. He wanted her to retreat. Your Highness' continuous arrow technique is indeed beautiful, but the target is dead and the prey is alive. So, it is still too early to say who will win and who will lose. Chen Ning still had that disapproving tone. Chu Xiaoyang's heart was filled with rage. This woman was always this arrogant in front of him, never willing to lower her head and admit defeat. Chen Ning, this king wants to give you one last chance. Oh, chance? What chance? She narrowed her eyes. Chu Xiaoyang took a breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He slowly said, this king wants you to submit a request to the court and become a concubine. As long as you give up the legal princess position, this king can spare your life and give you that date red horse. You can also live in the flowing cloud pavilion, and as long as you continue to abide by the rules of a woman, this king will not make it hard for you and will guarantee that you will not have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of your life. The way he spoke was filled with arrogance. He did not even look at Chen Ning, as if he was giving her a great gift. In Chu Xiaoyang's heart, this was already the biggest concession he could make. He wanted her to die, but now he was willing to let her keep the status of a concubine and let her live in the flowing cloud pavilion. She should be grateful to him. Interesting. Chu Xiaoyang, you really have the nerve to say these words. When Chen Ning heard this, she almost burst out in laughter. Chu Xiaoyang raised his brows and viciously said, what do you mean? Nothing. Chen Ning raised her brows and gave a cold smile. I just want to tell you that as long as I, Chen Ning, am here, the legal princess position will never fall into Chen Baiyun's hands. Chu Xiaoyang, I have never cared about the princess position, but I, Chen Ning, am not someone you can marry and divorce as you wish. If you want a divorce, it can only be me divorcing you, and not you divorcing me. Don't worry, I will report to the imperial court, but I will not ask to step down. Instead, I will divorce a heartless and ungrateful person like you. Chen Ning, shut up. Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his face turned green. He tightly clenched his fists, wishing he could send this woman to hell. Good, very good. This king is telling you, you will only bring shame upon yourself. 3 days later, you will be imprisoned here by this king for the rest of your life, and become this king's slave for the rest of your life. He angrily turned and left. In your dreams, Chen Ning curled her lips at his back. Chu Xiaoyang's footsteps slightly paused, but then he left without looking back. He felt like he had come here for nothing. He had actually gone crazy and wanted to give this ugly girl a chance to live. In the end, not only did this girl not appreciate his kindness, she even dared to say that she wanted to divorce him. This was simply too ridiculous. Chapter 297. Although Chen Ning had boasted, she had personally seen Chu Xiaoyang's archery skills. She really did not know how to win this battle. She saw the broken iron bow that Chu Xiaoyang had thrown on the ground, and she did not have the heart to practice archery. Even if she trained for another 3 years, she could not compare to Chu Xiaoyang. She gloomily walked back to her room. There was no news of Xiao Bai. What if he couldn't make it back before the big hunt? Even if he made it back, could he win against Chu Xiaoyang? No, she had to rely on herself. She had to think of a foolproof method. His archery skills are very good. You can't compare to him. Mo Chuan's figure appeared from the flowers. Hearing this, Chen Ning knew that he had seen everything that had just happened. I know, but I have to win. She gritted her teeth. Why? Just for a horse? Mo Chuan knit his pretty brows. That is indeed a good horse, but it's not the only good horse in the world. If you like horses, I can give you a better one. Of course it's not for a horse. Although I like that horse, I won't throw away my happiness for a horse. I just can't accept it, so I have to win. What if you lose? Will you be his slave for the rest of your life? Mo Chuan's dark eyes looked at her. I won't lose. Chen Ning raised her brows and took off her veil. Thinking that this veil was something that Chu Xiaoyang brought, she threw it on the ground and forcefully stepped on it a few times. Actually, Chu Xiaoyang is not a heartless person. If you really lose, as long as you lower your head to him, he won't make it hard for you. The fact that he was willing to say these words to you today means that he still cares about you. Mo Chuan thought about it and slowly said, "Cares about me?" She looked up with a cold smile and said in a sarcastic voice, "That's right, he really cares about me. On the night of our wedding, when I fainted from vomiting blood, he sent me to the wooden hut to fend for myself because he cares about me. On the third day of our wedding, he impatiently took Chun Baiyun as his concubine because he cares about me. He has tried to take my life for Chun Baiyun several times because he cares about me. To be cared for by a man like this, I, Chun Ning, am very lucky. You don't know, Chu Xiaoyang." Mo Chuan had a complicated expression. Chu Xiaoyang, Chu Xiaoyang. Chen Ning cut him off with a TSK. Hearing the name Chu Xiaoyang made her head hurt. She looked at Mo Chuan. "Xiaohei, who is this Chu Xiaoyang to you? Why are you helping him? Do you know that he almost threw me into the lake to feed the turtles just now? Didn't you know that he almost threw me into the lake? Chuan Chen, didn't you say that he would you?" Recalling the scene just now, she couldn't help but shiver. If it weren't for her resourcefulness, she wouldn't have been able to survive until now. "So, you're there just now?" She was angry. "Then why didn't you come out to save me?" Chapter 298. If he saw my face, would he let me go? Chen Ning countered with question. "You want him to be enchanted by my appearance? Do you know that I threw 2 thunderbolt eggs at him, almost destroying his face? He clearly saw my face at that time, and if he found out that I was the one who blew him up, what do you think he would do? Thunderbolt eggs? What is that? Why don't you tell me?" Mo Chuan was filled with interest. Chen Ning's heart filled with pride when she thought of this. She did not hide anything and told him everything that had happened. After Mo Chuan heard this, although he found it funny, he broke out in a cold sweat for her. "You really are daring. Do you know what kind of martial arts Chu Xiaoyang has? How could you dare to provoke him? If it wasn't for your good luck, you would have been buried under his palm. You're not allowed to do this kind of stupid thing in the future," he said in a commanding voice. "All right, I won't do it in the future." Chen Ning did not feel this was strange, as she honestly nodded. "I heard that Chu Xiaoyang had made a series of loud farts in the royal court not long ago. Could it be something you did?" Mo Chuan suddenly asked. The corner of his mouth couldn't help twitching. Chen Ning bent over in laughter when she heard this. "I never thought that you would be so resourceful. You even know about this?" Her brows lit up. "Truly good things don't go out, but bad things travel 1,000 miles. I think that everyone in the capital knows about Chu Xiaoyang's disgrace, right? This is what it means to have evil retribution. You little girl, it really was you. How did you do it?" Mo Chuan wanted to laugh, but he suppressed it. I can't tell you this. If you offend me one day, I'll use this move to deal with you." Chen Ning rolled her eyes. Her sly appearance was just like that of a fox. "Then do you know what the consequences of offending me are?" Mo Chuan's expression did not change. He placed his hands behind his back like he didn't care at all. The more he acted like this, the more Chen Ning couldn't see through him. She stuck out her tongue and giggled as she said, "I don't dare. I'm afraid you'll cut off my head in the middle of the night." "If I wanted to cut off your head, why would I need to wait until the middle of the night?" He looked at her. "Then will you cut off my head?" She looked up at him and asked. He thought about it seriously for a moment, then looked down at her with a faint smile on his face. "No." He paused for a moment, then said, "Never." Chen Ning's heart uncontrollably beat, and her cheeks seemed to turn slightly hot. She quickly lowered her head to avoid his gaze, but her heart was beating wildly like a little deer, fluttering nonstop in her heart. Chen Ning, what happened to you?" He didn't say anything pleasant. All he said was that he wouldn't cut off her head. Was there a need for her to be so happy? There must be something bewitching about this man. She'd better stay away from him. She despised herself as she quickened her pace. wanting to leave. Imo Chuan suddenly reached out and grabbed her arm. Her heart jumped again, but she pretended to be calm and said, "What? I'll ask you one last time." Imo Chuan seriously looked in her eyes and said word for word, "If Chu Xiao Yang repents and wholeheartedly treats you well, are you willing to give him a chance?" His black eyes flashed with a complicated and incomprehensible light. "Of course not," Chen Ning said without any hesitation. "This kind of man, I think he's dirty." Chapter 299. Chen Ning suspiciously looked at him, feeling like she could not understand him at all. "So you're saying that you've made up your mind to separate from him?" "Separate?" Chen Ning curled her lips into a lazy smile. "Of course not. I'm going to divorce him." Imo Chuan looked at her firm eyes, and his heart suddenly filled with a strange kind of gentleness. "Then what if you lose the competition?" He deliberately teased her. Chen Ning couldn't help being angry. She forcefully glared at him. "Xiao He, if you're discouraging me again, I won't return what I owe you." "Won't return it? That won't do." Imo Chuan's eyes flashed with a faint smile. That pair of cold eyes instantly became lively. Chen Ning couldn't help looking away as she muttered in her heart. When this person's eyes contained a smile, it was like peach blossoms were blooming. "Hey, Xiao He, do you know the rules of the hunt?" She was just casually asking, but she never thought that Imo Chuan would slowly nod. "I know." "You really know? Aren't you an assassin? How do you even know this kind of thing?" Chen Ning looked at him with doubt. "As an assassin, there are many things that we need to know, otherwise we wouldn't even know how he died. If there's anything you don't know, just ask. Then tell me, what was the competition like that day?" Chen Ning looked at the green grass on the ground that was like a thick carpet. She sat down on the grass and looked at Imo Chuan with her chin in her hands. Her sitting posture was very casual, without the slightest bit of restraint that young ladies should have. Imo Chuan was a little stunned, but then a smile flashed in his eyes as he sat down beside her. The competition should be held in the Royal Hunting Ground, which is a very large hunting ground. Before the competition starts, there will be large amounts of game, and after the competition starts, there will be free archery. Then the person who shoots the most game in a certain amount of time wins. His words were very concise, and Chen Ning understood once she heard it. This competition is quite fair, but if everyone shoots at the same time, how do we know who shot the game? She then asked. Everyone's arrows will be engraved with a unique mark. In the end, when the prey is inspected, the one with the most arrows will be the one to win. Imo Chuan paused for a bit before saying, "Every time the royal family hunts, King Ding Yuan will always be the champion. He can shoot 20 cloud-piercing arrows at the same time and can hit different targets. The movie showed you today was not his true strength." Chen Ning couldn't help taking in a cold breath as she said, 20 arrows? Imo Chuan nodded with a serious expression. She tilted her head and she said, "Then how does your archery skills compare? Your martial arts are so much higher than his, so your archery skills should not be too far off. Do you want to hear the truth?" Imo Chuan softly said, "In terms of martial arts, he is inferior to me, and in terms of archery, I am inferior to him." AI. Chen Ning gave a sigh and bent her knees. She placed her chin on her knees and fell into a daze. "If only Xiaobai could come back in time," she suddenly said. "Even if Chu Xiaobai comes back, he won't be able to help. On that day, eldest princess and Lu will personally host the hunt, so you must have heard of her reputation. She is a very fair person and has a fiery temper. No one has ever dared to play tricks under her eyes, and no one has the guts to do so. Even that stinky brat doesn't dare, so you should give up on that thought." Imo Chuan coldly looked at her. Chapter 300. He unconsciously revealed a trace of hostility. Although his expression was very subtle, he was not wearing a mask right now, so his expression did not escape Chen Ning's eyes. You don't seem to like Xiaobai. Do you have a grudge with him? But it doesn't seem like it. If you had a grudge, you would have 100 chances to take his life. When you fought with him, you did not use your full strength at all. Although she was not a martial arts expert, She could still see that with Mo Chuan's strength, as long as Chu Xiaobai was hit by a single punch or kick, he would be heavily injured. Even when Mo Chuan taught Chu Xiaoyang a lesson that day, he did not overdo it. He only made him look bad in front of everyone, but he did not harm a single hair on his head. His every move was completely unlike an assassin who killed without batting an eyelid. Mo Chuan, just who are you? The more she thought about it, the more suspicious she felt. Also, you've been helping me all this time, but you still haven't told me what you want me to help you with. When it's time to tell you, I will naturally tell you. You just need to know that I will not harm you. After he said this with an expressionless face, he casually stood up. He left her with an unfathomable back before disappearing in a flash. Chun Ning angrily pulled out a blade of grass and chewed it in her mouth. Was having good martial arts and archery skills that amazing? These men only knew how to show off in front of her. She decided that she would not ask anyone and would rely on herself. She had to win against that bastard Chu Xiaoyang at the spring hunt. If they really compared horse riding and hunting skills, even 100 Qinnings couldn't compare to a single Chu Xiaoyang. But who said she couldn't win? She suddenly narrowed her eyes and revealed a proud smile. For the next 3 days, she did not even leave the Flowing Cloud Pavilion's gates. She did not ride a horse or practice archery, living a very leisurely life. The reports that Chu Xiaoyang received every day were all the same. He couldn't help feeling suspicious. Didn't this woman swear that she would win? Or was it because he showed off his godly archery skills that day? So she retreated in the face of difficulties? No matter what it was, winning that competition was as easy as winking for him. After 3 days, it was finally the day of the spring hunt. The spring hunt held by the royal family was a great day that the young masters of the capital looked forward to. This was because on this day, they would be able to show off their elegance and heroism, as well as their horse riding and archery skills. If they could enter the emperor's eyes, their future would be limitless. But they heard that the one hosting this year's spring hunt was not the emperor, but rather eldest princess Enlu. But this did not stop the excited hearts of these young masters. This was because they had all heard a piece of news. The famous King Ding Yuan had made a bet with his princess, betting on who would come out on top in this year's hunt. There was actually someone that dared to bet with King Ding Yuan who had godly archery skills. Everyone knew that King Ding Yuan and his legal princess were like fire and water. If the two of them were to participate in the hunt together, it would be a very wonderful scene. Of every of the royal family. 2. Every royal, every. There were even people who set up a bet in the largest gambling house in the capital to see who would win that day. Almost everyone placed their bets on Chu Xiaoyang's side. When this news reached Chun Ning's ears, she smiled as she took out the 4,000 silver coins and gave it to Xiaohe. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.